Season's greetings! And welcome to the future. Otherwise known as episode 36, the Christmas special of tomorrow's
goddamn
World
Christmas Day.
Audit Time.
Goddamn Christmas Day, Russ.
Season's greetings, Mark. How are you?
Oh, happy Christmas, Russ.
I'm surprised you're still so excitable after that massive turkey lunch you've just forced down.
Doesn't this drop at 9 in the morning?
Yeah.
I know. Isn't it mad?
That's what you do, doesn't it? You have massive turkey
do.
lunches for breakfast. On Christmas
I do
Day.
turkey lunches for breakfast.
Yeah.
And then I rush over. See, as I said, your fantastic log cabin here, high in the Dutch Alps, rubbing my hands together, lovely fire crackling away.
Well,
Christmas,
yeah.
goddamn Christmas.
Have you noticed how many logs I've got? I've chopped down an entire forest of spruces. More on that later. No, it's looking lovely in here. I think a lovely episode as well to settle down in front of the fire with, isn't it?
Oh, it's all toasty and festive. How's your morning going? Did you get any presents, Russ? That's the most important question.
Well, Mark, we've both got the same presents for Christmas
What?
this year. Mark. Yes, absolutely. Because it turns out that after Phil Bolton's maverick manoeuvre of signing up for a subscription for our podcast
That no one knew existed.
that no one knew existed, two more people in the needed time,
Amazing.
have jumped aboard, and now it's the now almost silent partner in our podcast, Graham Rayburn, has decided to chuck his $5 a month, and also someone who I assume this isn't his real name is just referred to himself as Rod's Woolly Willy. So thanks for that. I mean, it'd be lovely if that was his real name, of course.
That would be
And that's
amazing.
the only reason he listens to our podcast.
That would be. I was just thinking, like, they stumble across this podcast because that's his name, and it's the only Google alert that's ever been hit.
Yeah, but I mean that means we now get $13 a month, which almost covers our hosting
It almost
costs.
covers. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
One of these days, we won't be paying for this.
yeah, fantastic.
Yeah,
We'll probably go.
brilliant.
Yeah, we'll go downhill from there. Then we'll get too lazy.
Hmm.
But yes, this episode comes from the 19th of December 1985. It's a lovely, cosy Christmas episode. All our favourite presenters in it,
Hmm.
and it's an absolute battle of the knitwear going on between the male presenters. I think
Epic.
it's fairly light on life-changing inventions, isn't it, Mark? But everything. Pretty much everything in it has some kind of Christmassy vibe to it, which is what we want, really, isn't it? We don't want to
Yeah.
use our brains too much after all that eggnog you had for brunch. And then, obviously, I think we did this last year. I thought I'd find out what the top 5 selling toys were of the year.
Yes. Yeah, that was great.
And so here we are. And I've got their cost at the time and what that is inflationary. What it would be. I think the inflation figure is from 2018, so it'll probably be even more now.
It'll be twice the price then. Yeah.
So number 5 are Wuzzles, which is a great name. I couldn't remember Wuzzles until I googled it, and then I thought I do vaguely recognise that. It's like
There's a Wuzzle.
it's like a cartoon that had toys attached to it, but it's like a children's version of the Island of Dr. Moreau, where they're all combine animals. So
chimeras.
yes,
you
that's the
mean.
word. Yeah.
Bastard chimeras.
Yes. Yeah.
The Wuzzles. I'm looking it up now. Oh, I do vaguely remember that. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Number 4. Oh, sorry. And those at the time were 11 quid, which in 2018 is 32 quid.
Oh, you can get plushies on eBay for $24.99.
Oh, there you go. Oh,
There we go.
Cheaper now.
Yeah.
Number 4 is the Care Bear desk, which I presume, if you've got important Care Bear business to be doing, that's what you use. I don't know. Signing Care Bear documents, having to Care Bear
Care
meetings.
Bearsness.
Yeah, oh, very good. Yes.
Thank you.
That was £18.40. Now would be £54. Number 3, Trivial Pursuit. Gotta love a bit of triv, Mark. I dispute that that's a toy, though. Really, that's more of a.
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
That's a staple.
Exactly. Yeah.
VAT free, like children's clothes and milk.
That would have been £8.99 or £24 now. Then something called Pillow People, which is basically like a an anthropomorphized pillow for people to chat to or something. I don't know, really. I couldn't really, it didn't really appeal to me. And then number 1 is the all-conquering Teddy Ruxpin, and there will be a lot more about Teddy Ruxpin later, Mark.
I can barely wait, Russ.
And yeah, I mean, bloody hell. No wonder. I was thinking, I don't think I ever saw anybody with a Teddy Ruxpin in real life. I just think I saw the adverts on TV.
I saw someone with one, yeah.
Well, he must be sport by his parents, because it was £57.99, which in 2018 money is 170 quid.
Wow. I did not know. That is so extreme.
Yeah.
But it was everywhere though. Like it felt like it felt like we were bombarded by Teddy Ruxpin when we were kids at this time. How could they afford to bombarding us with all that PR and ads for a product that was so expensive?
Yeah.
You could have bought 5 Care Bear desks or 4, whatever. Yeah,
Exactly.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Could have started a Care Bear office. Anyway.
A Care Bear room.
Yeah, so that was a little bit of context there. I think probably we need to get on with the episode because there's plenty in it, and yeah. So shall we just crack on?
Yeah, let's do it, Russ. Go on.
Now, I think that should just about do it.
Good evening, and welcome to the continuing quest for a better Tomorrow's World Christmas card. Now, last week's effort wasn't too bad, but I think you'll have to go a long way to beat this. First, take your work of art, done on graph paper, and wrap it round this drum. And then switch on and get it rotating. Then, once I've selected the colours, red or green, that I want here, this scanner down here will plot the exact position of the design from the graph paper and load it onto, yes, you guessed it, a microchip, which is inside this unlikely looking device. In fact, it's a new type of advertising display. And when it's switched on, those flashing LEDs look absolutely nothing like a Christmas card. But just watch this. The flashing might seem quite random, but it is synchronized with the speed of the arm, so that gradually it builds up the image of the Christmas card. Magic, eh? Now all I've got to do is to find a way of posting it.
Well, immediately we witness McCann drawing first blood in the Battle of the Knitwear with this beautiful sort of. To be fair, it's quite a muted colour. It's some sort of combination of grey and white and beige and things like that. But it's a beautiful, beautiful pattern.
I kind of feel like it's a classic McCann cut. I think he just pulled whatever he had from his vast walk-through wardrobe of knitwear.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. Yeah, he
Yeah.
doesn't. He'd forgotten it was even a Christmas episode.
I would suggest he probably has 365, and they just rotate through, Russ, and this it just happens to be the Christmas collection.
And then and then we see that he's been given some colouring in to do. He's working on the Tomorrow's World's next Christmas card. It's what he claims to be working on here. And is it because he has no there are no words to define what this thing is that he's just decided to call it a Christmas card? Because in no way, shape or form is it a Christmas card.
No, not by any stretch of the imagination. So obviously, previously was the last year we had Rod do the hologram card.
Yes.
But at least that was a flat thing that you could post. I think the word card here is doing a huge amount of heavy lifting.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the graph paper could be a card, but
That I agree. Should we explain what's happening
Yeah.
for those who aren't watching on YouTube? So he has in front of him, we see him kind of hunched over, and he's been hand filling in little squares on some kind of printer paper that looks like graph paper, and he's been filling them in, and we see that he's right at the end of having written, I don't know, what would you say, it's like 3 foot long, and it says Merry Christmas on it in felt tip pen.
Yeah.
Filling in all the black, and he's now about to spool that into a gigantic drum. That could be a card. You could send that to someone. They'd be confused, but you could still send it to someone. What isn't a card is the object then that we see afterwards, which is this kind of spinning. Again, I don't know. It's about 3 foot diameter, and it's this kind of 2 strips of LEDs, and they spin round, going faster and faster, and then eventually, obviously, the words "Merry Christmas" appear after he's fiddled with a gigantic box.
He
And
has.
he's like turning knobs, and it's like, oh.
It has just occurred to me. I mean, each grid on his graph paper is meant to represent a flash of the LED, isn't it?
One of the LEDs in the strip, yeah.
But his graph paper, there's no reason why his graph paper has to be the same size as the thing he's making.
Absolutely none,
It
Russ.
just needs
Russ,
to have
there-
one
no.
dot representing each LED. It could be a quarter of the size, but with just the same number of dots as there were LEDs, and it would function the same. The machine's not directly converting it, is it? It's converting the dots into a signal.
Well,
That's going to the LED.
my concern is that that's exactly what it's doing. Because as I said to you in the notes, it's like, because if he had kind of sat at a computer screen and typed out his message, Merry Christmas from tomorrow, love from tomorrow's world, and then pressed enter, and then it appeared in the spinning drum thing, that would be really impressive. And then he explained how it happened. But because it is so rope-a-dope and it's not an invention, it's a contraption. I don't know, it's very peculiar.
But I think you were right in saying that we can see these anywhere these days, can't we? But
Yeah.
I don't think I was thinking that I don't think I ever saw them when I was younger. I think they're relative, like although they were invented obviously back now. I don't reckon they got miniaturized or cheap enough for them to be a common appearance on our streets until sort of once the Chinese got hold of them and were able to churn them out much cheaper. Because now I feel like you just like kind of see them in tat shops. It's an
It's an
electronic
invention
tat shop.
looking for a novelty.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But I don't think you used to. So I think it'd be quite an impressive thing to see for the first time.
Oh, except that it looks like it would rip your hand off if you put it in.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Happy Christmas.
Actually, that was something I did notice because almost all of them now are some sort of fan. So it's either
Yeah.
a big long blade or it's a little mini blade. I actually put a picture of one at the bottom of the dot. That's a little one you plug into your computer.
Yeah.
And that shows it's got a clock on it. And I mean, so that's obviously that combines the cooling properties of a fan with the LED properties of being able to see what the time is. So that's quite good. But you probably could jam your finger in that. But that's powerful enough to jam your finger in it. But I did notice some of the bigger ones did have people saying this seems like it might be quite dangerous because people might try and reach in and grab the image. Because these days the images are actually it can do quite interesting things with them. I think because you're using these days. Obviously, they are controlled by a computer, and the quality of the LEDs has got better, and you can be a much greater range of colours. You can actually get some like really decent ones going, and like YouTube legend Techmoan, who I'm sure lots of our listeners watch on YouTube, who always looks at lots of different electronic stuff. He does a review of one, and he's basically got Mario running around in his hands. And it looks really impressive. So but it does look like you probably could take your finger off if you were fiddling about with it too much. But obviously, and the other thing is the more blades you use, the better the image is, and the more 3D it is. So I was looking on AliExpress, which is absolutely full of them, as I predicted, and like there's some that are like 5-bladers, and they get really impressive sort of images on them. You can buy special Christmas themed ones, so that they come with preloaded images of snowmen and Father Christmas and things like that. So yeah,
Lovely.
Yeah, it's all moved on, Mark. And then there's also this, those little tiny hand fans that you might use if you're in a hot built office or something like that. You just wave in your face. There's a company that does those, which you can have your own branding put onto the LED on the fan. And if you bulk buy 2,500 of those, that only cost you £3.50 each. So,
Wow. Okay.
So I was just thinking, should we order?
Easily. Yeah.
2,500,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Tomorrow's World Audit time.
I'd be surprised if they weren't sold in days.
Well, we could give them out free to each of our subscribers.
Oh, Russ, we'll have to.
Yeah.
They can each have 1,000 each. Phil, I hope you have many hands and a hot face.
Hey, beat that, Maggie.
You never know, I might, because tonight is the last Tomorrow's World of 1985, and we'll be seeing how Santa Claus evades the clutches of the video pirates. We'll also be having a mouth-watering taste of Switzerland. But first, on a festive note, Bob Symes learns how to cope with some seasonal problems.
Now, this invention seems to be just what's needed for dark winter days. Batteries down inside the lollipop stick drive a series of flashing lights, making it much easier to spot at a distance than the conventional lollipop. Mind you, it's not an idea that could be taken up immediately. The Department of Transport would have to change the existing laws for flashing signs on roads. But already, the inventor's own police force considers it a very good safety idea.
Now, before we get into that segment there, Mark, I think we've had our first ever Tomorrow's World interloper, where we had somebody on screen while Maggie was presenting, who I don't think we should have been able to see, should we?
No, not at all.
He was setting up some telephones for a later segment, and I think he's been caught on the hoof there. I don't think he's, not realised that she was about to present in front of him. So,
I think you're absolutely correct. And he doesn't even act shocked because I think he assumes he's not on screen.
Oh, yeah, interesting. Somebody should give him a call on one of those phones and tell him. But then, most excitingly, Mark, after 36 episodes, we finally get one with the mighty, mighty Bob Symes in it. He was always a favourite of mine when I was a kid.
Same.
I think he's an absolutely tremendous presenter. Like
Yep.
the way his pieces are called sort of. He turns them into like little fun narratives where it goes from one part to the other. It's very appealing, especially if you're a kid. It makes it much more entertaining. And the fact he seems to have this very sort of cozy life, and he's just very interested in everything and likes explaining things to you. He's the perfect presenter for Christmas because he looks like Father Christmas already with his big white beard and his friendly demeanour. Yeah, love the.
Well, he does also look like Romanov as well, though.
Yeah, he does. Well, yeah. Well, actually. Interesting you say that, Mark, because it turns out that his real name is Robert Alexander Baron Schutzmann von Schutzmanndorf.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he's an Austrian aristocrat.
No way!
Yeah.
It's so weird because I was saying to you, like, I was delighted when I saw him on this. He's not someone I've thought about for a very long time, and I had instantly warm feelings towards him because, like you, I always remember him being a lovely presence on screen. Because he didn't just do Tomorrow's World, he did other things as well, I always assumed he was just, a slightly eccentric, posh Brit. I suppose probably, especially because I was probably watching him mostly in Ireland, so he just kind of fitted a certain archetype. And it was only when I was watching this that I noticed that his accent is not... There is something else there. It's the first time I'd really listened to him as an adult and go, he's not English, he just sounds English.
Yeah.
So he's an Austrian aristocrat.
Yes. Yeah. He.
God, I hope he doesn't. I hope he didn't die of antifreeze poisoning.
Well, no, he escaped because he had some Jewish ancestry as well. So when the Nazis annexed Austria, obviously his family got out of there quick, sharpish. So, but he could speak German, French, Arabic, and English.
Wow.
And because he was quite well connected, he just contacted a British diplomat and said, can I help out the war effort? And the diplomat just got him commissioned in the Royal Navy because they thought his language skills would be really useful. So yeah, he was commissioned as a lieutenant in the Royal Navy and operated motor torpedo boats. So I presume this is why he's got that very naval style beard as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That makes more sense now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, not that it didn't before. It made perfect sense before.
Yeah.
But yeah, now it makes more. Yeah.
But then after, like all the old school Tomorrow's World presenters, he left the Navy and then just joined the BBC. I think back then you could just walk through the door. And, if you're the right sort of gent, then they let you in. And obviously because of his language skills, he did the overseas service. And then because he had such an interest in technology and science and stuff, I didn't realise this, but he's been with Tomorrow's World since the very beginning. So he didn't used to do things like this, but he would, if Raymondo had something that needed two people to explain it with him, or he needed somebody to talk to, then old Bob would come out and join him on the set. And you can see there's a picture of him in 1969 there.
Is that what? I see.
And he's explaining a new type of train carriage or something to Baxter. Yeah. And
That's like oh yeah, oh how amazing. Because I was thinking, I was like, oh, it's a how weird that we haven't come across them. But then I suppose equally we have only watched 2% of every Tomorrow's World ever made, so it's probably not that shocking.
yeah. But it does mean that because he was appearing on the program on and off for over 30 years, he is technically the Tomorrow's World's longest lasting presenter.
Serving
presenter,
yeah.
yes. Yeah.
I would never have guessed. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I wonder how many episodes he did. I wonder how often he appeared.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, because we discovered on this...
Obviously, we'll know.
We discovered on this episode that he's not even in the credits.
He's not listed. Yeah, I thought that was so odd.
Not even listed under his real name.
Yeah.
Imagine
Yeah.
taking up the whole screen. Yeah. So, but he, as you say, he presented... He was really into, like, very specific... The two types of engineering he was really into were trains and plumbing. Like, he was obsessed with
Plumbing.
improving plumbing. Yeah. And
Okay.
he came up with a few different inventions of his own to do with plumbing, and one of them was the non-smell toilet that somehow included like an extra ventilation system that stopped it smelling or something like that. He was always banging on about that to people. But then his train obsession was like legendary. He was a patron of loads of different those enthusiast railway type places that people go to, and like he campaigned for them to open a line in Scotland, and became friends with David Steele over that, and all things like that. And had two massive model train things in his garden. And as you can see there's a picture of him riding it.
Yeah.
That was on his 90th birthday, and he died when
Wow.
he died when he was 90. So that's literally just before he died. He's
God, he
absolutely
looks fit as a fiddle.
bombing along and that.
He's going fast. Quite a lick.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Also seems to must have had something of a way with the ladies, because his first wife was a BBC radio producer, and he wanted to thank her for like playing his requests when he wrote to her. Like, he'd write requests to the radio, and then she'd play them on the Forces radio. So he wanted to thank her in person, and he met her, and then within 6 weeks they were married. And yeah. And then
Fair enough.
yeah, and then she died in 1998. So, but then in 2007, he met another woman called Sheila at Festiniog Railway, is it called, the one in Wales? Mm-hmm. Married her within 2 months, Mark.
Whoa.
Got absolutely shotgun marrying these women. Yeah, so I don't know.
Yep.
It must be
Well,
clearly.
at least it was serially and not parallel.
yeah. So clearly an absolute legend with the ladies there. And I was going to say, surely, probably one of TV's great forgotten monocle wearers as well. Everyone always bangs on about Patrick Moore, but more
I'd
often,
forgotten about it until you see it hanging down like a medallion. Yes.
more often than not, you see him with a monocle on as well, which obviously probably ties in with his, because like comedy Austrians and Germans have quite often got monocles, haven't they? So is it?
Well, how else do we know? How else are we supposed to know they're shocked unless their monocle drops off their face?
Yeah. So
Who do you think was the last great TV pinsoir wearer?
I don't know. Doesn't Dave Bautista wear pinsoir in a film?
Is it Blade Runner 2044 or something like that? Doesn't he?
Yes.
He just had the pinched on his nose. Yeah.
Or is that
yeah.
is that pince nez? Is there a difference between pinsoir and pince nez?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Oh, how exciting! Should we find out in a next episode?
Yeah.
Cliffhanger.
So anyway, Bob, the legendary Baron himself. So he died at age 90 in 2015. So that's a good old innings. But that does mean
Wow,
mean
fair play.
he would have been 100 next year. So maybe we should celebrate his 100th anniversary in May. It will be.
Happy to do that.
The Bob Symes special.
That's a great idea.
But onto this piece.
Yeah.
It's a little Christmassy piece, but it starts off with Bob as a lollipop man. So should we just discuss the lollipop man bit first? I guess.
Please do. Yes. Yeah.
He's dressed more like how I imagine a milkman would be dressed as a lollipop
That's
man.
exactly how he's dressed. He's dressed as a milkman. Yeah.
Is that because?
absolutely.
Do you think it's against the rules to be able to
Impersonate a lollipop man?
Yeah, impersonate a lollipop
I
man.
don't know. I don't know. Or did they just look like that? I don't remember.
Yeah, it might predate, because obviously these days they wear like bright fluorescent yellow and orange
do.
and stuff, but it might probably predates neon stuff, I guess. So maybe 1985.
Well, I mean, I couldn't help but notice that basically, because we see, for those listening, you'll have heard like loads of children kind of running through a playground at the end of the school day. Every single one of them is wearing as dark a hue as their parents could find. It's like, apparently there was no reflective material that existed in Britain in the early to mid 80s, because obviously this entire invention is about a lollipop that has lights in it, behind the plastic. And which obviously, us living in the future now in our, with our highly reflective, laminated metal or enamel or whatever it is, reflective enamel. It seems silly, but it's only on multiple occasions you realise, oh, no one had anything reflective.
No. And he says that, and Bob says that it's currently illegal to use it on the road. I think Bob's currently using it on a road there, isn't it? So,
He really was, Russ.
so yeah, I know you've got a special dispensation. But yeah, I think it's one of those things where I can kind of see. He says. So even if they had changed the law to allow these things, I think it would have been superseded quite quickly by something better. Because it just I mean, even though it's got those lights in it, it doesn't look very bright, does it? I mean, it's not like
No,
it's not
it
like
doesn't.
LED brightness. It's kind of a grubby sort of cheap torch brightness.
It's for something that's bright, it's quite bleak.
Yeah. But the lollipop men and ladies only were invented in 1967, Mark. You know that?
Didn't know that, no.
There's some act of parliament invented, like a big traffic law, invented them basically. And the name, obviously, the name comes from what they're holding. But it was invented. There was a ventriloquist called John Bouchier, who there's a photo of at the bottom of the. I've got lots of photos.
Oh, is that who it is? Yeah.
Yeah.
John Bouchier.
He toured schools with that creepy looking dummy of his.
Is it smoking?
He might be
Jesus.
smoking. But he toured schools to make children more aware of road safety, doing like a little act where Charlie, was being cheeky or whatever. But little Charlie always referred to the people as lollipop men or lollipop ladies, and that's where it was invented. And it immediately took off as the name for them. So yeah. Do you know, Mark? I put this in the notes.
I did see that, Russell. I love it. I hate a quiz. You know I do.
Many years ago, when I was taking my driving lessons with a man called John Glancy, he was absolutely stunned when he asked me what I thought the black bar in the middle of a lollipop sign was. Because if you look at the sign, it's got like it's got stopped, and then there's a big black bar, and then it says either children or it's got a picture of children. And he was amazed. I was being the only person who'd ever taken any of his driving lessons to correctly guess what that was for. Can you guess what it's for, Mark?
No, of course I can't, Russell. No.
I'll give you a chocolate off the Christmas tree if you get it right.
What's the black bar made of? What does is there anything special about it, or does that give it away?
The special thing about it is that you could write on it with chalk.
Well, then, one of two things I would suggest you'd record: the number of children successfully mowed down, like a hatch marks, or the details of a car that had bothered you.
Yes, exactly. It's writing down the number plates of cars that have broken the law. Yeah. So yeah, you probably couldn't be able to do that on the light up one either.
No, probably not. No, because that looked like plastic. I don't suppose you could. I assume we would need a bit of chalkboard or something. You probably just carry around a bit of chalk, but that looked like plastic. So
yeah. Britain's longest-serving lollipop lady, Irene Reid, is still working as a lollipop lady, and she's been doing that job for 55 years, Mark.
bloody hell.
She got honoured by the Queen on 2 non-consecutive occasions for her lollipop ladying, and she's still at it.
Well done, her.
Yeah. I wonder, how many. Do you think she's brought them all home, or do you think she's ever had any?
I count them out and I counted them back in again.
Mishaps.
In 1986, one child died. No, I imagine. I imagine if she's still going, then she must have done a good job.
Yeah, I'm sure she has. They don't use illuminated signs, Mark. They still use reflective ones, obviously with a far more impressive reflective coating on it. And also, cars have absurdly bright headlights these days anyway. So,
to be fair, that was a really good observation from you, which is that lights are just so much brighter now.
yeah. So it's an invention that Bob can chuck back in the shed, I think. Should you see what else is in Bob's shed?
Oh, yeah, let's go.
Blunt, useless. Well, what a stroke of luck. Thank you very much. Now to find out how it works. Well, apart from the power drill which drives it, the sharpener is completely self-contained. It really is a very well-engineered gadget, and I would rather call it a tool. And it's very simple. You put the drill bit, any size up to 13 millimeters, into here. But before grinding, you need to set the height. Just tighten that up. And there. That height is set precisely. Now into the grinder. As I rotate the drill bit, the specially shaped molding allows it to drop onto a grinding wheel below, first for one side of the bit and then the other. There, that tip looks a lot healthier. You can see the secret of the design on this one over here. The drill bit goes in at just the right angle onto a cylindrical grindstone. And as it rotates, just the right part of the drill tip gets down to the grinding surface. The angle of the tip is different for wood or masonry bits, for example, so the inventors allowed an adjustment to cope with that. Very, very clever and ingenious. And to build it, he went through a complete host of tests. The first metal prototypes that proved the principle go back 4 years. Then followed wooden models, and finally, plastic, to find an economically feasible way of manufacturing a product. And here it is, a very clever device. And if he can keep the price down to under £30, I think he's got himself a big market. Now, I've got a whole host of drills to sharpen, but I think that can wait. What I could do with now is a festive drink. This one looks interesting. Yes. With this bottle, I don't even need a corkscrew. Cheers. I think I may need another glass.
Lovely, satisfying sound, isn't it? The pop of the corkscrew and the gug 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 of the wine pour.
Delightful. No, it is really good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's almost enough to make me buy wine with a proper cork in it rather than
A box.
a box.
Yeah, a big old box with those giant straws that you put at the top.
Yeah, you're like a cat food son.
Yep.
But yeah, so this is Bob continues with a.
This is Daddy's Umbongo. Leave it alone.
Yeah, Bob continues with a series of, I would say, inventions of changeable quality or desirability. I think.
Desirability, yeah.
I think he's got a thing to foot your ladder on. Then he's got a drill bit sharpener, and then he's got a wine bottle that can be opened by pulling a ribbon on the cork. And I would say the drill bit sharpener, I think, probably works a treat and would be very useful for anybody who does a lot of drilling. But
Yeah.
but Bob does go on about it for
Oi.
maybe a little bit too long.
Yeah.
And I would
yeah.
say that the other two look like they'd fail almost immediately at their assigned job.
Well, I think for the benefit of the listeners rather than the YouTube viewers, because I don't think a single word is spoken about this ladder thing. All they will have heard is like the moving of a ladder against a building,
And
So
the
Santa
the occasional grumblings
Oh.
of a clearly drunk Santa.
a sozzle Santa.
Yeah, in a very cheap Santa's uniform.
Yeah, it's like a kind of a large red plastic. I don't know what is the wrong word. Thing that's filled with water. That the idea is that you put it on the floor. You then screw your ladder into it, and all of a sudden, miraculously, your ladder is now safe to climb at seemingly any angle that you choose. Because the one they choose in this video looks frightening. And this plastic water container does not seem to have a kind of a rubberized or textured bottom, so that is just going to go flying.
It would- yeah.
Especially in what looks like a little pathway, a little gravelly
It
pathway.
would just slide across the icy concrete like a curling stone, surely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hugely dangerous.
But funnily enough, not the most dangerous sort of ladder sighting that I know of. Bearing in mind that there's a very famous story of my own father, is that somebody once caught him. I think it was either a neighbour or somebody he was working with. Came back to discover that he'd got his ladders, put them to as long as they could go, and realised they still couldn't reach the windows that he was trying to reach. So he decided to just balance them on the bonnet of his car.
It's miraculous that you're here and that he's still here.
Yeah.
But never let it be ever doubted his commitment to cleaning those goddamn windows.
Yeah. I mean, this could have been perfect for him. He could have, rested that on the bonnet of his car instead. It wouldn't have made it any less dangerous. But yeah, and then there's this drill bit sharpener, which is, I think, quite a clever idea, that you use your own drill to power the device. So that cuts down on costs because you're not
It's
having
a neat
to
idea.
having to pay for a motor or anything. But
Yeah.
Rob really wants to show us every single minuscule
I
element of how it
love
functions.
his enthusiasm, Russell. But not for as long as he wants to share his enthusiasm. And yeah, because it's a neat idea, but it's not exactly world changing.
No. And then the next thing, this sort of wine, I think this is probably the best wine-based invention in the program, but that's not saying much considering the next wine-based invention that's coming up in the next segment.
Yeah.
But there seems to be so many ways that this could go wrong to me. I just don't trust that putting a ribbon through a cork and then putting it in a bottle. I just don't trust it to work every time.
No, God, no. No. The idea that you would. Yeah, no. So yeah, it is literally a circular ribbon that goes through the middle of the cork that you pull. Now, I will say this: when he initially pulls it and it slices through the foil,
Yeah, that was
that
good.
also that was very satisfying.
Yeah.
That made a lovely sound. All on board for that. I would happily have a ribbon in a cork just for that lovely, satisfying moment. As much as I love a waiter's friend and kind of peeling around the edge with the little blade, that is kind of fun. It wouldn't be as fun as the kind of like, it almost feels like you're unpinning a grenade. It's like, yes, here we go. Somebody dive on this bottle because it's going to go off. But then he kind of clamps it between his legs and starts pulling on the ribbon. And I don't I feel confident in saying this did not make it into the Futurist because I just think it seems like a really stupid idea. And the idea that you wouldn't be using a corkscrew on 50% of the occasions that you were hoping to drink a bottle seems for the birds.
I can imagine just off screen, there's sort of 5 to 10 discarded bottles with the ribbons ripped out of them where they haven't worked properly.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously Bob has got rid of his corkscrew; he doesn't need them anymore, and we know his drill bits are blunt, so that's it. those bottles are wasted.
Yeah, but nice to see another presenter's wine cellar. He's there, obviously.
Yes.
You know, we don't know what temperature it is.
No, we'll never know because there's no guides or anything. There's no clever mnemonics to work out what temperature you need to have your wine stored at either. I like the fact that he was kind of going around with a candle in what is clearly daylight in a windowed cellar.
Yeah, I know it all adds to the Christmassy vibe, so doesn't it?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Walking around with a candle I don't know why, but it's for some reason it's got something to do with Christmas. I don't know why that is. Is it just 'cause it's dark at Christmas?
Is that because Scrooge walks around with a candle when he's
yeah.
in his I think isn't that the picture, the Dickens style picture?
Yeah, maybe it's that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, let me quickly go through these. I mean, obviously.
Oh yes, please.
Certainly, you can't get. I went on ladderstore.com, and there's 35 different designs of device for preventing your ladder from slipping. Not a single one of them looks anything like this. None of them contain water. None of them are made of shiny orange plastic. There's nothing even remotely like it. The what appeared to be the best one on the website, the number one sort of results that they were really banging on about, is the Big Grip ladder stabilizer and leveler. And I think if you can see at the bottom of the dot there.
Oh, is that what that is?
You can see that's kind of like,
Jeez.
looks like something that, I know, land on Mars or something. It's got sort of 4
Yeah.
big metal feet. It's got a proper strap for holding the ladder down. You know, that's not going anywhere. It's the best ladder accessory yet devised for substantially reducing the risk of ladder slipping.
Since the invention of the car bonnet, I see.
Yeah. It takes the grip of normal ladders from less than 4 square inches to over 480 square inches. So that just shows, you know what I mean?
That sounds like a lot of inch.
Exactly, yeah. You could,
Wow.
You could probably, get a balloon out of the roof of an ice hockey stadium with that, and be absolutely no worries of slipping over on the rink, I reckon.
What a very normal reference for this.
I was really racking my brain there to think of it could be.
You're really trying to get a universal metaphor there, weren't you? Yeah, brilliant. Nailed it.
Anyway, drill bit sharpener, another success. This is a proper success story. They're everywhere, and generally, they're almost all. They're not exactly the same design, but you can see that they are of the same design. They still work by pushing your own drill into it to power it, and then you stick your drill bits in the top bit, and it does them and all of that. You get one from Screwfix for 20 quid these days.
Underneath that 30-point price point he was worried about.
Yes, yeah. The reviews tend to say that it does work, but the plastic it's made of is quite flimsy, which I think is interesting because Bob goes to the trouble of pointing out that the one he's got is made of plastic, doesn't he? So
Yeah, he seems delighted about that.
this is before plastic was evil, though, Mark. Probably that's the thing.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously, one cork ribbon, no, doesn't exist. But there is like a whole, like, there's many websites saying that if you somehow lose your cork in the bottle of wine, I don't know how that really happens much. If you lose it in the bottle of wine, you can use like if you use a fairly stiff ribbon or something similar, you can hook it round and pull it out of the bottle quite easily. There's plenty of videos of people doing that. So it is the same principle, but only to be used in the odd emergency of you somehow losing your wine cork in the bottle. But,
Okay, I'll bear that in mind. Can you share those links with me, Ross? Because we are coming up to Christmas, and I don't want a wine emergency on my hands.
Well, talking of wine emergencies, let's have a look at this.
I think I could do with one of those, Bob. Ah, that's better. You know, it's more than the festive season that makes a French wine special. For centuries, the wine growers of France have taken extreme pride in cultivating only the best. Grapes like the Cabernet Sauvignon variety and pure yeasts from the Montrachet Valley are traditionally fermented and matured for years to make the finest wines in the world. But now, we Brits can do the same thing in 3 weeks using this kit here. The powder is made from those very same grapes and yeasts, and it contains no artificial preservatives or flavourings, and all you have to do is add water. Right, here we go. Well, you can have red, rosé, or white, depending on the type of grapes used to make the powder. And of course, like any fine wine, you can't drink it straight away. Well, certainly not while it's cloudy and frothy like this. And it won't need filtering, clearing, or maturing. Now, the mixture in the bag is placed inside one of these boxes and left to ferment for 3 weeks. And the result is a wine that is full-bodied, witty, and certainly pretentious. And there's a bonus. When the grapes are powdered, their stalks and pips are removed, and with it, the contaminants that cause those thundering hangovers, so you're more likely to face the morning after with a clear head. Sounds like a good enough reason for me to celebrate. So, if you bottle the white wine you made earlier, add a spoonful of sugar, and hold your breath for just 2 weeks, you get your nice drop of shepherd's bush, Chateau de Shepherd's Bush. Drink your right out Dom Perignon. Whoops, there we go. Now on BBC One, the Thursday night movie. Cheers.
Now Howard comes in absolutely swinging here with his Christmas, with one of his 2 Christmas jumpers of the episode.
Yeah.
It is. Sometimes think the novelty Christmas jumper is maybe more of a
recent?
modern
Yeah.
sort of phenomenon than this. I'm quite surprised that he's managed to find quite such a ostentatious Father Christmas jumper in 1985. But
I had the same instinct as you that this seemed surprisingly out of time.
yeah.
Way ahead. That's what he is.
He'd probably sweep the board at any sort of office Christmas party
Well, of course.
jumper competition that they all seem to enjoy these days. I managed to miss today because I was researching this episode instead.
Sacrifice is well made. Go on.
But also, I think Howard's also firing on all cylinders with the presentation style here. He's absolutely he's top cheerful best.
Even though he's slightly under the weather.
Oh yeah, he's got a little croaky voice, doesn't he, slightly? But he's sort of cracking wise and presumably trying his best to sort of gloss over what an utter disaster of an invention this stuff is. It looks absolutely disgusting, doesn't it?
Oh my God, it looks rank.
It's absolutely vile. Astonishing
Oh.
stuff.
And at one point there are 3 gigantic glasses, each one viler than the last.
yeah.
Oh, it's shocking.
Yeah, I wonder if he just got those glasses from the BBC bar. That's like sort of their standard pour there.
Yeah.
But
you want 3 of the Wogan specials. There you go.
But yeah, I mean, at least the red one he pours out is vaguely purple-ish, so you know. But then the next 2 he pours out, particularly the rosé. The rosé is like a disgusting sludge beige colour, and it's just got all of the powder and the foam all sort of floating around it. It looks distinctly undrinkable. Mark.
It's like somebody giving you a glass of Ready Break and trying to convince you it's a vintage French wine.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing.
And the idea that he's selling us, the idea that how many centuries have the French been working on wine? Quite a few. I mean, I assume wine has been grown in. I assume grapes and wine have been grown in France, and wine being made since the Romans were there, since it was Gaul. And yet the idea that it's okay, we cracked it. Yeah. We've got this. Horrible powder, and in 3 weeks, better than anything the French will give you. Yum, yum. Delicious wines.
I think, possibly the only sort of thing I could think of where it might be in some way useful would be if you were going to, I don't know, the moon or the Antarctic or something.
Powdered wine, yeah.
And you would need to be able to somehow make wine there from something that was easy to transport.
So you are a Catholic priest who has accidentally found themselves on a Martian mission with a need for an emergency mass.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you know what, Ross? You have found the audience for this particular product because I don't know who else is good. Because the thing is, at one point he then once he's shown us these things, he then kind of goes over to this kind of weird. This is a box, isn't it? Like this kind of large box, but not like a wine box, you know. But like, you and I would know. And then he actually has a little tap and he pours it, and a decent looking glass of wine comes out.
Yeah.
And I assume because the tap is high up the box, and I assume just underneath that tap there is just all
silt.
the horrific sediment and the silt and the grit and the grime just sitting there.
Yeah. If anybody ever knocks that, they have to leave it for another 2 days to settle again.
Yeah, probably. You probably can't move it. Somebody shakes it, that's Christmas ruined.
Yeah. And he claims that because it hasn't got the ground up skins and stalks and seeds in it,
Oh yes.
then it definitely won't,
No
won't give you a hangover.
Yeah.
I can't
Absolutely not. Yeah.
I can't imagine anything that would be more likely to give you a hangover than powdered wine.
Oh. just the fact that you said that out loud is like, oh shit, that's what it is. It is powder. Oh god, damn a blast. And the other thing I thought was fascinating about this was, for me, it reminded me. It's like I don't know what happened. Maybe it was Cool Britannia and the New Labour, election in '97. But at some point, it became acceptable for people to drink wine. Because at this point in the 80s, it is not acceptable to drink wine. It is just not. It is smug, arrogant, posho nonsense. If you are drinking wine, it is because you are trying to get above your station. You want sure you might as well be walking around with a Filofax with your mum's number in it. You know, you're that much of a it's like
Chateau Neuf du Pape.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's like it's interesting. I don't know where the inflection point was. Where like, oh, people are like, oh, yeah, actually, wine's quite good, and you're allowed to drink it because it's quite nice. But at this point, it's still because even there is even that sense of like, well, we don't need it to be posh. We don't need to be sophisticated. We don't need grapes.
Yeah, and Howard does his little line there. Is it full-bodied, witty, and certainly pretentious? And then does sort of like
certainly pretentious.
a face like one of the Bisto kids with his nose up in the air. Yeah.
A nice drop of Shepherd's Bush, Chateau de Shepherd's Brush, as he says.
Yes, yeah.
And then right at the end, because the thing is, he tries a smidge, a tiny soupçon of the wine from the box. But then he goes off and right at the end, he gets a bottle of white wine, pours sugar in it, and then pours it out like a champagne, and absolutely does not taste any of it.
No. And seems surprised that because he's just dumped a load of sugar in the champagne, it's frothing it.
That it fizzed up and frothed up, yeah, absolutely. At least he doesn't call it champagne. At least he's not that foolish.
Yeah. I mean, does his mention of Chateau de Shepherd's Bush count as travelling to Shepherd's Bush, Mark? That's wine. Anyway, we'll get to that later.
Yeah, we will do, because well, he goes to a pub, and I just assume it's the pub next door, but we'll find out later. Go on.
Well, I think you'll be quite amazed by this, Mark.
No, don't you dare.
But not only does this still exist, it's
No.
now split into 3 distinct areas of slight difference that are treating different markets. So the one Howard has here is grape powder, and that's for the home brewing market. So basically, what's Howard got? Yeah, you could buy a kilo of that off of eBay for 20 quid, right? And obviously, I looked on the homebrew forum where they discuss these kind of things.
Of course.
And there's people going, I've got this, I'm looking at this grape powder stuff. Is it any good? And from what I could tell, the general consensus is no. But it does make a shit lot of wine. So 550 grams of this powder, so that would be basically a tenner's worth of powder.
Yeah.
Will make 23 litres of red wine.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
What's that, 34 bottles or something stupid like that? It's bloody hell.
Yeah, yeah. So I think probably, as you might expect, the people on the homebrew forum are probably more interested in quantity rather than
I
flavour.
was about to say, are they quantity aficionados?
yeah. But then on the side, to the side of this, you've then now got dehydrated wine, and now that's different because that's been dehydrated in a way that means that it still has the alcohol in it. So that's basically more a sort of just add water and your wine instantly appears kind of thing.
That's your emergency mass solution,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yeah, and it's even called, the one I saw was called like, I don't know, Trek wine or something like that, which I think it wasn't a Star Trek reference. It was like a going on a Trek reference. It had like a picture of mountains and stuff on it. But I found somebody reviewing that, and their review said it tastes. So clumpy, musty odour, like drinking beetroot juice spiked with cheap vodka that has spoiled at the bottom of the ocean for 300 years. So, not a ringing endorsement.
Yeah, gosh, mixed messages there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the third one is a new sort of development in the powdered grape world. This is a scientist and entrepreneur called Hilary Nivers Johnson, who I put a photo of her at the bottom of the.
Oh, is
thing,
it that is?
because
you have to stop saying this, yeah.
She looks 11, 12, but she does an entire. She's a scientist and entrepreneur, and she does like an entire TED talk about her new grape powder that she's invented. But amazingly, she calls it wine flour, and her thing is that it's made only of the skins and pips, i.e., it's made of the one thing.
Everything Howard has thrown away.
Gives you headaches. Yeah. But it's like the website. It's like one of those things where she's invented this stuff, given it a name, but is entirely unsure of what it actually is for. Because the website it's got sort of quick suggestions. Supplement. Do not substitute your recipes to add flavour, colour and nutrition. Wine flour is not just for baking, great for thickening sauces and stews. Tired of boring gluten-free recipes? Add wine flour to jazz them up. Wine flour is not just for cooking, not a baker or a cook. Resveratrol found in our products are great for skincare too, used in soaps or face masks. So basically, she just found a load of things where you could bulk out or hide wine flour in it, and then just suggested them as possible uses. She might as well just say, fill sacks with it, and then use it to weigh down stuff. I don't know.
Well, fill sacks with it, and prop your ladder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's basically a product with no future as far as I'm concerned. But it looks like she's got a long future ahead of her. She's clearly about 12 years old.
She's about 14. Yeah.
But yeah, so despite your scoffing at this invention, Mark,
how dare you? You were scoffing too. Get out of here.
It is surprisingly successful. Yeah.
I got my doubts. that it's available does not mean it's successful, Russell.
Yeah. Well, it's on eBay, Mark. That's what I'm saying. If it's on eBay.
Oh well, I mean.
It is.
Well, you won't be seeing Rambo on television this Christmas, and you won't legally be watching it on video either. It's not yet been released on cassette, but thousands of pirated copies are already circulating. In fact, worldwide, the film industry loses something like £500 million a year in lost copyright payments. But a new anti-copying system has been developed recently, which seems to have solved all the problems of the past, so it may defeat the pirates. Now, I'm going to try and copy a cassette. And I've got a very popular video in here. In fact, it's the #1 video at the moment, Gremlins. Now, it's being played on this machine, and over here, it's being recorded on that machine. And the recording machine continuously monitors the incoming signal, and it adjusts the recording level. Now, I can adjust the signal on this oscilloscope, which is linked to the player, and I can turn it down. I'm going to turn it down to show you what happens if the signal is weak. The recording machine automatically increases the level, so the quality of the recording isn't affected. And if the signal level is too high, the recorder turns it down again to compensate. Right. We've got a different cassette here. It's Gremlins again, but it's been through the new system. Now, we've got it linked to this special monitor, which shows you the bit between each picture frame. There's one picture frame, there's the important part, there's the other picture frame. That's the anti-copying signal in between, and it's extra bright, so it fools the recorder into thinking the picture is too bright. So the recorder turns it down from the level it should be to a much lower level. And you end up with a recording that's much too dim. But that's not all it does. Every 45 seconds or so, the anti-copying signals flash on and off. They're just starting to do it now. So the recording level goes up and down. You can see it there. And the automatic recording level tries to control the fluctuating signal and ends up completely messing up the recording. So let's have a look at what we have been recording over here and see if we can see the difference. Here is the original, and there is a very different looking copy over there. As you can see, as well as being dimmer, the picture is breaking up, completely broken up now, so it's a completely useless copy. This system is already being used in America, and it may be with us sometime next year. And if video piracy can be stopped from sapping the earnings of new films, like this one, for example, Santa Claus, very popular one at the moment, then perhaps there'd be more money to put back into the film industry, and hopefully television. Lovely film. Mind you, I often find it far more relaxing looking into a roaring fire.
Oh, absolutely. I think you ought to take a closer look at this one. You're not going to believe this, but it's another 90-minute cassette. Look, I'll freeze it for you. There we are. Coalfire, the movie. What the critics are calling a great picture.
I can't believe at the end there, McCann has got an artificial fire playing. Who would think of doing such a thing, Mark?
Oh, actually, let me just put another log on the fire. There we go. Sorry about that.
Yes, video fun, Mark. We get to see 3 different Christmas movies.
Yeah.
The Santa Claus the movie, Gremlins, and that famous seasonal treat, Rambo.
Yeah. It's a big fight in our family as to whether we watch Die Hard or Rambo.
Interesting, in both those cases, the films have got subtitles that, like, as in they've got the second part of the title that Judith resolutely doesn't use.
No, indeed, she bins them.
Yeah, it should be
not interested.
Rambo First Blood Part 2 and Santa Claus the movie is what they should be. Just, for film buffs out there, I didn't want them to think we were getting it wrong. Yeah, but yes, we're worried about people copying those Rambo tapes and their Gremlin tapes and putting those poor poverty-stricken Hollywood film studios out of business by copying the videos across. So we've got a little machine here that interferes with the copying process and renders them almost as bad to watch as a sort of a DVD.
An actual VHS tape. Yeah. Oh, thank God, Russell. Thank God. I was beginning to worry about all those Hollywood execs.
Yeah.
Sure as night follows day, any new home entertainment technology must be followed by a segment on Tomorrow's World about a year later talking about anti-piracy.
Yeah. Interestingly, I was able to find out how much the VHS of Rambo cost to buy in the US in 1985 or 1986, whenever it was available on your VHS for the first time.
Uh-huh.
Do you know how much one VHS would set you back, Mark?
Of Rambo
First Blood Part 2.
First Blood Part 2 in 1985.
Yes, a original copy, not pirated off your neighbour.
Jesus Christ! I feel like it'll be frighteningly expensive. Let's say it was £40, which would have been about $75.
Not bad, Mark. 79.
Yep.
They're 79.95.
Yeah, I'm pleased with that. Gosh,
They still
that is so much.
They still managed to sell 425,000 copies of it.
Bloody hell! I wonder how many Teddy Ruxpins were in that house at the same time as well.
But the weird thing is that Beverly Hills Cop 2 sold far more. It sold like I think it was almost 2 million copies. But that was
Wow.
only priced at about $20. So I don't know. I mean, did you get a special booklet in the Rambo one? Was it signed by Stallone himself? I don't know. You know.
God, why the price difference? Because that's a big difference.
Yeah.
2 million copies, bloody hell.
Yeah, but I didn't realise Rambo: First Blood Part 2 was such a massive success. I mean, I don't think I've ever actually seen it. I've definitely seen the first one and the third one. I don't remember anything about the second one, so I might not have ever actually seen it.
I remember a scene where he's in the jungle and he's about to shoot someone, and a snake comes at him and he grabs it in midair. Russ, that's what I remember.
Is that because that's what you've just seen?
Because that's the scene I've just seen, Russ. I don't remember any of it.
In this little brief
Yeah.
basically little advert for Rambo, isn't it? Really,
And Remlins and Santa Claus.
Yeah. Can you imagine which of those do you think Jude would be most likely to sit down in front of with her Christmas dinner and watch?
I feel very confident in saying absolutely none of them. I suggest it's more likely she'd put the fire on, but actually, I secretly think she doesn't have a television at all.
Yeah. She's got like a really low-tech house. She's just doing needlecraft.
Crosswords crosswords and needlecraft. Yeah.
This is another one. This is one of those segments where they've got a lot of tech in front of us, haven't they? They've got all sorts of old-looking TVs. They've got a lovely bit of an oscilloscope, and they do go quite far out of their way to explain what's going on. In such a way that I thought, now I know what's going on. I could probably work out a way of getting around that copy protection if I had any sort of technological skill.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
They're relying on the way that the second video machine that they're recording onto, if it detects a weak signal, it will boost that signal. It will boost the gain. So they're relying on the fact that it does that automatically. So they're hiding something in the video that stops it from doing that. So then, or makes it do it too much. But one of the two.
No. So within the frames, there are little patches of white that overexpose the act as a kind of an overexposing signal, which means that the video recorder thinks that there's loads of white on screen.
Yeah, so drops the
signal, so it goes black, and then obviously when that white little square disappears, once every 1/24 of a second or whatever, it then compensates the opposite so that you're fluctuating. Basically, it's unwatchable.
Yeah.
Of course, if you switch that part of the VCR off, it'll just record the picture as it is on the screen, right?
Well, this is one of the things that I did discover that some machines just didn't have that, so they were.
Just didn't have that ability.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
brilliant.
if you actually had a cheaper machine, it would probably be better because it would be automatically compensating anyway. But it did make me wonder: are these hidden flashes in any way a risk for epilepsy sufferers?
Yeah.
Because even though they're imperceptible, they are still there, aren't they? Presumably.
Yes.
So I don't know whether that's something they looked into, because I do know you have to test things these days for epilepsy. They've got special machines you have to connect them to, and they test things to make sure they won't trigger an epileptic shock before they put it on television. But I don't imagine they ever did that in 1985. Wasn't nobody cared about it back then, did they?
No one cared. Yeah, no one had epilepsy back then, or whatever. Who cares?
But I was going to say, so I was looking at videos in general. Do you know what? You won't be able to get this, but the first 3 films released on VHS were, Mark?
What year?
It was the mid-70s. I don't know the exact year. I'd say one's a musical and 2 of them are military.
2 of them. Military films?
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have to edit for time here, Russ, because I'm going to give a serious thought to it. Safe knowledge, you're going to cut out some of my thinking. Okay, mid-70s, but they may not necessarily have been... Were they released in the mid-70s, or were they like heritage releases?
One of them was released in the 60s, and the other 2 were released in the 70s. One in the early 70s, one in the mid-70s.
Okay. Green Beret?
No.
Sound of Music?
Yes. Well done.
And... Oh, was it MASH?
Yes.
Wow, what was the third one then?
Patton.
Bloody hell. Okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed Patton.
So
I wouldn't have guessed MASH.
this is interesting. Universal Studios so obviously you still had Sony, which had Betamax, and you had JVC, which had VHS, the famous war that Sony lost, even though their technology was technically better.
And TV used it for decades.
Yeah. But interestingly, because Sony invented Betamax before JVC, this weird situation happened where Universal Studios decided to sue Sony for selling blank cassettes, saying that it was even the mere sale of blank cassettes was acknowledging that copying or recording of television programs or films
Facilitating piracy.
Yes, facilitating piracy. Yeah. And it went through the courts for years, and in the end, it went all the way to the Supreme Court, who ruled in Sony's favour and said, no, as long as people are recording these things off of their televisions for their own use, then they're essentially all they're doing is time shifting something they would have watched anyway. So Sony are fine. But the weird thing is that JVC at this point now owned 95% of the market because they own the VHS, and it was poor old Sony that were getting sued. So they had to defend themselves. But yeah, and then Hollywood tried to take it to Congress. They tried to get like a royalty put on all blank video cassettes to try and sort of say they could recoup some money from that. But Congress very sensibly said, "Hang on a minute, it's now 1980, like it's now the mid 80s, and you're making absolute fortunes from the sale of video cassettes."
Possibly
because you're charging 80 quid per copy for Rambo for a start. So, no, your profits are through the roof. Of course, we're not going to put money on blank video cassettes just because somebody might be slightly breaching your copyright.
So what profits are being threatened here exactly? Yeah.
So they didn't. So I thought that was interesting, and it had a lasting effect on sort of copyright law in America, right? And it was sort of.
I'd say I've been very interested. There's a kind of I don't know where it is in the American legal system, but working its way through is, there's these spates of what they call live service video games, where you don't buy a video game, you kind of subscribe to it.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have been switched off. Like, that's it, we're not supporting them anymore, even though you bought, some of them are free, some of them are purchased. And there's an interesting legal debate where the Supreme Court have dictated that, famously, if you go and you purchase a video cassette or a DVD or a CD or an LP, you own that and you can resell that as much as you want.
Yeah.
That is yours. You possess this object. That is your right as a purchaser, means that object belongs to you. The fact that it's copyright material on it is irrelevant. You own the object, you have purchased it. The sale of goods means that blah, blah. So if you have bought a computer game, because some of these live service games, you can go and you can buy a disc. You have bought that game. If they stop the service, are they actually in breach of your rights as an owner of the object? Because it is not your fault that the object no longer provides a service. It is their fault. And so there is a court case going through at the moment that is challenging this idea that you can just stop supporting a game that you've sold physical copies for. Downloads is different. It's an interesting grey area. And even then, actually, the concern Hollywood, and I use that to mean the entertainment industry has, is that this case begins to challenge the idea that if I buy something on iTunes, I'm not really buying it, I'm buying a license to it.
Yeah.
And the suspicion is that is actually fundamentally an illegal transaction, because the expectation of the purchaser is what's key.
Wow,
And the purchaser is expecting that this is a permanent purchase, because they have weighed up, maybe I'll buy a CD, maybe I'll buy this. Ultimately, I'm getting the same product. The way it comes to you is neither here nor there. So this whole stuff is still live.
Oh, yeah. No, that is interesting. Yeah. But luckily, Mark, I already own all of the music I've never wanted to listen to. I've got all of the Chas and Dave and Phil Collins that any man could need. So
that's very true. Yeah. And a man like you needs a lot.
Yeah. They're not making any more of it. So
no.
This machine that Judith is using, I discovered, is called a Macrovision.
Ooh,
and
that's a good name.
It turns out that Macrovision changed their name, and they are now called TiVo. You remember TiVos were big about 10, 15 years ago? Yeah, so they, so they're very much the sort of the people that get into some sort of video technology that then gets superseded by everyone else, I guess. But obviously, people did invent devices that could beat this quite quickly. What they did, they just invented a device that would go between the two machines and cancel out that signal. And as soon as it cancels out that signal, then it starts to work again. So yeah.
Never underestimate the work ethic of somebody who doesn't want to work for a living.
No, exactly. And then DVDs came along, and then people could put them on their computers. But obviously, then there was still copy protection on those, but it's like a kind of cat and mouse game between them. Trying to copy protect them, and then people cracking it. And then now, obviously, we've got the internet mark, and absolutely no piracy occurs at all on the internet.
No, thank God.
No. So yeah, all solved.
All solved. That's it, Russ. You're absolutely right. All solved. And aren't we all happier as a result?
Absolutely. I'm happy to hand over all of my money to.
Thank God we've got all these episodes of Tomorrow's World entirely legitimately.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. From the Michael Rod basement library.
Of course. He's very sweet. Yeah. Thanks, Michael. We love you.
Merry Christmas, Michael.
Yeah.
Cheers. Happy Christmas. By now, you'll find one of these just about everywhere you go, whether it's artificial or a real one like this traditional spruce. In fact, every year, about 4 million of these are either felled or uprooted. It's a simple job, of course, because the roots are small and shallow. But shallow roots become a problem as the same trees grow bigger. Up here in the Scottish borders, the Forestry Commission run a business spread over 2.5 million acres. Row upon row of spruce trees. Some are harvested young for Christmas trees, but many grow tall, proud and valuable as timber. Until, that is, the gales blow. Windthrow, as it's called, is the biggest and costliest problem facing the foresters, because the trees often fall before they're mature. And what's more, sorting out the tangles that are left is a time-consuming and dangerous job. For years, they've tried different planting patterns, and they've plotted all the areas of high wind. But now, attention is focusing on the root cause of the problem. This tree is about to be pulled down in the cause of science, and we're going to be able to listen to what goes on underground. The sound's picked up by a microphone buried down near the roots, and at the moment you can mostly hear the soil breaking up. It's all part of tests to find out exactly what happens when a 60-foot giant like this succumbs to the wind. These gauges measure the vertical movement of the soil, and each revolution here is 1 millimetre, so you can see we're rising quite quickly. And a gauge up there on the winch cable measures the stress exerted on the trunk. And now you can hear the sound of the individual roots snapping. Right, Mike, I'll leave you to it. Keep it going, Colin. While the winch simulates the pressure of the wind, the instruments tell us the force needed to break first the smaller roots and then the larger ones. Compare that with the soil movement, and after months of tests, the factors most affecting stability, like the numbers and shapes of roots, are being discovered. Well, the truth is that these trees have very shallow roots for their size, and that's because the clay soil gives extremely bad drainage, so the roots can't grow very deep because they just get waterlogged. Nevertheless, some trees are worse than others, and some are made very unstable by having shallow roots that grow out from only one side of the trunk. But over here is much more what we're after. You can see that there's depth to the roots, and also they spread out in all different directions, which makes this a very stable tree. Now, it's hoped that the research going on here will help the Forestry Commission to develop trees with more stable roots. Now, that can be done either by changing the genetics of the tree or changing the soil conditions. And hopefully, more of these trees will then survive the winter gales. Meanwhile, there's no need to let this one go to waste. Looks as though I've got myself a Christmas tree. Thanks, Colin.
Thanks, Colin.
Altogether more sombre knitwear choice for Howard in this segment, and generally more sombre performance as he presents what I think is probably the most boring segment of the programme.
Yep. This is the kind of jumper I like. This kind of Fair Isle Icelandic fisherman jumper.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's a I mean, it's pretty tough old weather out there, isn't it? It looks absolutely
hot,
grotty.
yeah.
And I don't know. I can't. I can see why they've included it in the program. It's because the trees they're looking at when they're young are sold as Christmas trees. So that's
Yeah.
But I don't know how much excitement you can get out of two blokes with a ratchet strap pulling over spruces and listening to them.
Torturing spruces.
Yeah, I was going to say, I do. When I first saw this, I did genuinely feel quite sorry for that poor old spruce. You could basically hear his bones snapping as they bend.
That's exactly what it sounds like. Yeah.
As they bend it over.
Yeah.
And they just, I was just thinking, imagine if that was like a dog, and they were doing that.
Yeah, it wouldn't seem quite as festive.
no, or reindeer.
Yeah. I did enjoy the welcome return of a long-lost favourite, which is the idea of the wind as man's enemy.
Yes.
Well, nature's enemy in this case. It's been a long time since the wind was something to be afeared in the night. But apparently it is less dangerous than men torturing the trees themselves. So, yeah. That's what I learned. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he starts off in the pub. That's always nice. Have we? I think we always manage to fit in a visit to the pub in our Christmas episodes, don't we? I think it's,
Of course we do. Yes, I think we do actually. Definitely alcohol, but definitely a pub. Yeah, definitely. Because last year, Kieran was having a couple of bevies before he tried to cheat an alcohol driving test. To the point where I was looking to see if it was the same pub.
I'm assuming it's probably the nearest pub to wherever those fellas who were chopping down the trees are. I reckon it's probably their local that he's gone to.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah. What's he drinking? Do you think it's a vodka and orange, or just an orange juice?
I managed to see a steaming hot glass of mulled powdered wine, isn't it?
Of course. Freshly poured as well. Hence its dysentery yellow.
Yeah.
Lashings of mulled powdered wine. Yeah.
Yeah, and nice to see some proper old school 80s decorations as well. I thought they're like
Yeah,
really
100%.
garish tinsel and mismatching
Yeah.
ornaments and all of that. Wonder how is it that people started to care more about the colour scheme of their Christmas trees in that way?
BBC changing rooms, Russ. It changed the world.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. We watch that and go like, oh, we better not fucking do our house like this ever. So let's learn how to make our houses look nice.
But yeah, I mean, there's not really a huge amount I can say about this apart from I mean, it confirms my theory that conifer trees are stupider than deciduous trees.
Yes.
They just come across as
theory,
stupid, don't they?
It's a theory you've definitely shared with me before, and I never believed you, Russ.
Yeah.
And now the evidence is here. Yeah.
Just putting down a cursory smattering of
Bloody tree idiots.
of roots, and then sometimes putting the roots in the wrong place. Although, I'll tell you what, I found out about that root, the root thing. There is one advantage they have if they just stick because apparently they can strangely stick a root out of one side and sort of like it's not even in the ground sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that does allow spruces to do a thing called they can reproduce using a process called layering, which is basically that root goes out and then starts to form another tree, and then that tree gets so healthy that it basically becomes a separate tree. And it can do that ad infinitum if it manages to do it right.
No, they're way ahead of us, Russ.
Well,
I don't know what you're talking about.
And this means that in Sweden, in the mountains of Sweden, there's one tree that's been doing that, and they've worked it out, presumably not by chopping it down and counting the rings, but they've somehow worked it out that the original spruce first grew there 9,550 years old, 50 years ago. So it's technically the world's oldest tree if you count the regenerations as the same tree.
not?
They're genetically identical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, that is interesting. I don't think people tune in to learn stuff on this podcast, Russ. Put a cork in it. Put a ribbony cork in it, Russ.
Yeah, but I mean,
That's really interesting. Yeah.
I mean, there's all sorts of Forestry Commission reports about spruce.
Is it definitely genetically identical?
Yeah, because it is technically the same tree. It's not the only
Okay,
the only
gosh,
thing it's
okay.
done is just
Yeah.
grow itself a new trunk, shift over and grow itself a new trunk.
Yeah. All right. God, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, that is interesting.
But I mean, the Forestry Commission are obsessed with spruces. They've got. If you look through any of their annual reports, as I've quickly scanned through them with Control F, it's spruce this, spruce that, and the reason is spruce is like.
I mean, it would be if you controlled F it, Russ.
but
I'm assuming you only read the word spruce.
yeah, it's, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Obsessed they are.
But it's because it's super useful, and because you can use them for building the timber frames of your houses. You can almost all virgin paper is made from spruce, especially in Europe anyway. You can make the Wright brothers' first aeroplane was made out of spruce, Mark. The very imaginatively named the Flyer, it was called. I didn't realise. And it's the standard material for making the soundboards in stringed instruments. So your pianos, your guitars, cellos, violins, all of that, all got spruce in them, Mark. So so they're a high profit tree. It's just a bit stupid. So I mean, a bit like sort of like the cows of plants, really, I guess. Yeah. We know pigs are too clever, aren't they? Yeah, cows.
Yeah, no, pigs are frighteningly intelligent. Probably shouldn't eat them, really.
I mean, they get a respite. Oh, they don't get a respite at Christmas, do they? Because everyone's having pigs in blankets and,
we literally
giant joints of gammon.
It's in fact it's the only time of year when we literally call the food after what we're eating.
Yeah, it's a good point, that Art. Yeah, I saw some. I did actually see. It was like a thread of someone they were discussing Christmas food on something on the internet I was looking at, and it was, I presume it was Iceland. It sounds like an Iceland invention, but it was like a steak and gravy pie, but instead of having a pastry top, it was topped with pigs in blankets instead.
Oh, okay. Gosh, they're way ahead.
Yeah.
Actually, the thing I learned, I think those Icelandic fisherman jumpers are really nice, which is why I think this is my favourite jumper of the. Although this is more Fair Isle rather than feral. Though of course it's one of those things where you always have to remember that the reason those Icelandic fisherman jumpers served a purpose, which is that they were often made by the wives of the fishermen, and it made the identification of bodies easier.
Oh, is that true? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were unique to each fisherman. They were homemade, and so they were warm and they were protected. But it was so that when the bodies washed up on the shore, they could identify. They could just basically hand in the jumper and say, "Is this your husband?"
Oh. So if Howard had been brained by a tree there, they could have dragged his body to TV Centre and thrown him on the doorstep, and security could have gone Stableford, clearly.
Yeah. Next.
Yes, okay, fine. Well, I'll have to call you back later. Pretty smart, eh? My other phone's a Porsche. Now, there are no excuses nowadays for giving boring Christmas presents, not when you can give white bunnies as phones, or Garfield especially. But watch out if you're given a cordless phone. If it's handy for use down the bottom of the garden, it's also very handy for your nosy neighbours. There are only 8 channels, you see, allocated to cordless phones, and if you happen to get the same one, they could then listen in. Okay, Jeff, are you still there?
Are you listening to their riveting conversation there? Because I can't hear it because I'm obviously too far away. But my handset is receiving the signal which is being sent out by his base unit. And it stands to reason that if I can receive signals from that base unit, then presumably I could also send them. So what I'm going to do is to disconnect my phone. I won't be picking up any bills now. He will, right? So let's go for the speaking clock. Now, all the approved phones, hear that? He's paying for that. And all the approved phones which are on the market do have a unique code so that when you dial, you can't do this. But some of the ones which aren't approved haven't got it, so do watch out. Nice to think that he's picking up the bills, though.
I can tell you I am, because the in-use light is on. Now, if you mix in the right circles, you might find one of these in your stocking, a cellular car phone. Over 42,000 are now in use, and they transmit and receive calls via a nationwide network of base stations. Now, none of these phones interfere with each other, and you'd never be able to listen to someone else's conversation. To do that, though, what you'd need is a radio receiver like this. It's not a very special one. In fact, it only costs about £375. And those are genuine conversations which are going on now throughout the local base station, which is in Shepherd's Bush from here. Now, the only good news is that it would be difficult to monitor all the calls of one particular person, because with the cellular radio system, your nearest base station will assign you a frequency at random when you dial in. And if you move out of that cell, you'd be allocated another random channel on another base station.
But despite this highly sophisticated system, it is possible to home in on one person's calls. Now, Peter's setup isn't good enough to do that. What you need is a surveillance receiver, like this one here, which can scan numerous channels very quickly. And you do need to stay close to the target. So a couple of days ago, I set off in pursuit of Howard and the secrets of his stocks and shares. Well, Howard's in that maroon car just in front of this truck here. And he's using his cell phone. So what I've got to do first is to track down his frequency.
Well, that'd be nice.
Well, we're only hearing one side of the conversation at the moment. So what I'm doing now is retuning to the base station, and then we should be able to hear both sides.
Between a few commodities. Yes, that might be an idea. The trouble is there are very few other commodities that I would really want to put my shirt on at the moment. Yeah. Tin is in a very bad way. They say that rubber can bounce back, but I'm not sure.
Now, we've lost them. What's happened is that they've gone into another cell, so what I do now is to get them to track the frequencies once more, and after a few seconds gap, we're back into their conversation.
Package for this sum to
Here
go
it is
to.
again.
All right, excellent. See you soon, Michael. Okay, bye-bye.
Well, now, to prevent all that, the current operators are working on producing scrambling systems. But a rather more sophisticated approach will be used in this new cell phone, coming in January, which will have a built-in scrambler available shortly afterwards. To give you some idea of what an eavesdropper might hear, this cordless phone is fitted with a similar scrambling chip. As with the military, both parties will need a scrambler for total security. And when it's so, whilst I'd hate to dampen your excitement if you do receive a car phone for Christmas, remember someone else may be equally excited at getting one of these receivers.
Now, I did enjoy, I know you put little titles on our segments here, Mark, and our shared notes thing. And I have to say, Christmas eavesdropping, you must have given yourself a pat on the back for that one. That was very, very enjoyable.
I did rather enjoy that one, Russ, yes.
Yes. This is quite a long segment, isn't it, Mark? With quite a lot of stuff happening in it. But it's one of those ones where they've really gone out of their way to explain a whole series of things to us.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know whether we need to know this much or have this much demonstration of something which is basically could be boiled down to.
I don't think we should know.
Yeah. Don't buy a dodgy, cheap cordless phone because there's not got the standard on it that means that people can hack into that. And then B, if you want to listen into somebody's car phone because that runs on a different system, you can just buy one of these things that tunes into it. But
we're going to show you how.
Yeah, but don't do that obviously because that's illegal. But this is us doing it right now. It's quite interesting.
It is fascinating because I mean ultimately I was thinking what do we learn from this segment? And actually what we learn is how to break the law and how to eavesdrop. That's actually what we learned. They dressed it up as a consumer protection segment, and I particularly like the way they introduce this is the idea that everyone in the world wants to listen to your conversations.
Yeah.
Even though you're a boring old fart, everyone wants to learn your goddamn conversations. The second you turn your back, they're gonna be trying to listen into you. Oh my god, what are you gonna do about this? Are you a fool? And then that doesn't work, so they drop that within the first 25% of the script, and then they replace it with, I think, the much more convincing idea at the beginning of okay, they don't really want to listen to you because you're really boring, but they do want you to pay for their phone bills. Now, that is a much more compelling argument, I think, for the vast majority of people who are watching this. And then they just go off and they show you how you can listen into Prince Charles phoning Camilla.
Oh, who would want to do that? But yeah, I mean, surely the first thing you would do is if you lived in a high density residence of some kind.
Yes.
After seeing this piece, I would immediately run over to my cordless phone and unplug it and see if it's still connected to anybody else's in the building.
Give it a go.
Yeah.
Give it a go. Absolutely. Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't even know how much the talking clock costs, but it clearly costs enough for McCann to be annoyed.
Yeah. But a lovely. I think probably quite. This is one of those ones where they've made it quite visually interesting. It's a bit like their obsession with having lots of different robots on screen at once. In this bit, they've just got lots of different phones on screen at once. Obviously, the idea is that you won't be short of Christmas presents this year because you can buy somebody a novelty landline phone.
Yes. That was the thing once, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I was a big fan of the Popeye one. That was an absolute beast of a phone. I was actually
huge.
I was surprised that when I looked at what Popeye phones, because I was trying to work out what it was, and it's actually the handset is him holding dumbbells with 2 giant cans of spinach each end. So that's that's
quite
what's going
neat.
on there. But there's an extraordinarily large number of different Popeye-based phones you can available at different times. Which I don't know, what it is, why he lends. I don't know. Is he particularly phone shaped? I don't know.
He just must be very cheap to license. I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's probably. You don't see Popeye very much these days, do you? I can't miss it. I always found him quite entertaining.
No, you don't see him. But you're right.
But then Peter's favourite is, of course, the Garfield phone.
Oh, classic!
An absolute classic of its
love it.
kind. And did you know the story about that Garfield? The news story about that Garfield phone that there was a few years ago?
No, I didn't. Oh, well, I don't recall it.
So if you look at the picture at the bottom there, you'll see there's like a big pile of kind of busted up, grotty looking Garfield phones there. Mm-hmm. And so what that is that in March 2019, they finally solved this mystery because there's this part of Brittany, the Iroquois coast of Brittany, where practically every day at least one Garfield phone would wash up on the beach.
Oh wow!
And it was
okay.
It was doing it for 35 years, right?
Wow!
And so they eventually these sort of environmental volunteers decided to look into it and do some investigation. And they tracked down a local farmer, and he remembered where he first saw the first ever one sort of land. And then they looked around that area, and they found a secluded cave that is only accessible at like low tide. And what had happened is somehow the container had come off the ship, washed into this cave. And what happens is that every day at high tide, it basically spits out a Garfield phone that comes out of the container. And he was doing it for 35 years.
That's incredible. I had not heard that. That's magic.
The cave is like pretty much inaccessible without loads of diving equipment or something like that. So they've still not done anything about it. So I mean, presumably even now there's still Garfield phones being.
They're just content to have a Garfield phone wash up on the shore every day.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I thought that was good.
God, those French are way ahead of us.
Aren't they? But yeah, I mean, we get I don't know. I think this piece went on for too long.
Yes.
Because it was covering 2 different but very similar things, but then it took them quite a while to show you the 2 different things that it was covering. Kind of thing, I think.
They also don't need to do the whole car chase thing.
No. I do think Michael Rodworth really enjoyed doing that.
Yeah.
He likes a bit of audio equipment, likes a car chase, so
he loves a low speed car chase.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I did notice that Howard was speaking to a mysterious Michael on his car
Good
phone.
spot. Yeah.
So I don't know whether that was actually the Rodmeister himself.
It seems highly likely.
Yeah. I can't imagine there's any other Michaels that they have access to. But yeah, I mean, it's what else to say about it, Mark?
If it's nothing, Russ, then we don't have to say anything. Except that we now know how to illegally eavesdrop car phones and landlines.
Yeah, although you can't do that anyway now because they introduced new standards in.
Of course they did. Because that's an intolerable situation.
Which are called the DECT, Digital Enhanced Cordless Telecommunication Standards, and they just have an encryption key on the phone and the base thing, which is only shared amongst phone manufacturers. So it just doesn't happen anymore. And it's been
and we don't use landlines anyway.
It's been updated. When do you reckon last time you used a landline was?
Used. Well, I mean, as I said in the notes, I was at an Airbnb on the Suffolk coast a week and a half ago, and we were all gobsmacked to see a landline, an actual phone in the living room. I don't know why. I suppose it was because it was something that was so ubiquitous that you would give it no thought whatsoever. I have not seen one in a private home for a long time. Even my mum, who is slightly older than us, does not have a landline in her house, or if she does, it's hidden away. The last time I used one, I've no idea. I mean, if a phone started ringing in my house right now, I'd burn it down to the ground because it's haunted. I mean, we don't actually have a landline, but whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I don't know what I do. I'd probably knock on the next door neighbour and say, "Can you answer this for me?"
Yeah.
What about you? Do you remember?
I did used to have one in my room in London, but I never used it. I think it was. I think I only just had it in case of, I don't know. My phone had run out of batteries and the flat was burning down or something. And the landline was there, so I might as well have a phone plugged into it. Basically, was the thing.
Yeah.
But then I think we switched supplier or something, and the landline no longer worked. So then I unplugged it and never thought of using it again after that.
Incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. Shame you can't get like Garfield mobile phones or Popeye mobile phones. That's a missing.
Less pocketable, but yes, I do agree with you.
Well, you wouldn't want to pocket them because they're so cool.
No, that's true. You just wear it on your back.
Wear it on your back or clip it to your belt.
Like a little Popeye just peering over your shoulder.
Back in 1980 on Tomorrow's World, I explained how these were made. They're everlasting evergreens. And all of these plants, huge palms, even these delicate ferns, have been perfectly preserved in their natural state by replacing the water in them with a specially developed embalming fluid, which preserves them for 10 to 20 years. Now, the process has been used successfully on all sorts of different plants since then, but the scientists have never found a way to preserve the more delicate beauty of flowers in full bloom. Embalming didn't work because the fluid couldn't get to all those fragile parts of the flower, and it also discoloured the petals. So it looked as if fresh flowers would always succumb, as these have over here, to the ravages of time. Until now, that is, because after 7 years of development, a Swiss chemist and his wife have worked out a successful system for preserving open flowers in their natural state. We've got one here. This rose is already 3 months old, and it should last up to 5 years. So how have they done it? Well, of course, they're keeping the details secret, but they've abandoned embalming altogether, and they've developed a special drying process. Now, we all know that ordinary drying in the air makes this happen. The colours fade and the plants wither. And then there's extremely fast drying, like freeze drying. Now, that does help to preserve the flower, but this happens. The tissue becomes distorted, cracked, and fragile. Not really any good at all. But the new drying technique uses a soft mould. And what you do is you take your fresh flower and you press it in, like that. And the mould material itself begins to remove the water from the plant, while at the same time holding the petals and leaves in their correct shape. And when the drying process is finished, you remove all of this mould, leaving the flower almost perfectly preserved. And remember, this one is already 3 months old. Now, although long life flowers won't be available here until next year, they're already on sale in Switzerland. Beautiful Swiss roses to go with beautiful Swiss chocolates, which is something Maggie's been looking into.
Now, Mark, it might surprise you to learn this, but I don't think I've ever been bought a bouquet of flowers. But
Have you not?
No. But one thing I would humbly suggest is that it's not, regardless of how well preserved they are, a bouquet of embalmed flowers it somehow lacks the magic or romance that the buying of flowers inherently possesses. Don't you think? Am I wrong there?
No, Russ, you're not wrong. I have been bought a bouquet of flowers by a girl, and it was a lovely thing to receive. You're right. If she bought me a bouquet of embalmed flowers, that would be creepy. Second only to me then rushing home to embalm the flowers I just received.
I mean, it's very much it's the Gunther von Hagen's process
Yeah.
for flowers,
Yep.
really, isn't it? That's what it is. It's the and I think this is if the flowers that she got at the end were indistinguishable from fresh flowers, then I'd think, well, this has got some sort of use case, I guess. But that rose she produces from the mould at the end is absolutely rotten.
Rotten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they must be doing all sorts of other stuff to the flower to make it look good. Or the other flower she's got isn't actually an embalmed flower at all. She's just got a normal rose. She's pretending it's embalmed.
I've got my suspicions, Russ. Because one of these things does not look like the other.
No.
Yeah, she produces this yellow rose from this coffin of gloop, and it looks pancaked. So it then kind of dawned on me, like, maybe the idea is that you get this single rose, and you put it in this coffin of gloop, and then you pull it out at some point. I don't think she says how long it takes. And then I kind of get the impression that maybe you're supposed to kind of like tweeze at it and kind of stop manipulating it and trying to sculpt it back to life again. At which point, this begins to sound like a hugely laborious and painstaking product that must have a tremendous price point. If you're individually reshaping roses. So, without spoiling it, in the next segment, your first line is that you enjoyed the transition where Judith has a box of these flowers from Switzerland. She opens the lid, and underneath, nicely done actually, underneath there is the next segment superimposed in the box, which then obviously comes at the screen. You were delighted by that. I was hugely disappointed because I wanted to see what these bloody... what do they look like? We never see these flowers as a product.
Yeah.
We are denied, which I think means that, I'm now beginning to lead into your... this is all nonsense. We're being sold a pup here, Russ.
Well, this interestingly made me think. So actually, in a slightly unconnected way, I think there is absolutely definite BBC lies in this segment. And that's because I tracked down the company that invented this process.
Yep.
They're called Vermont Flowers, right?
Yep.
And they said we invented this.
Very Swiss name.
We invented this process in 1984.
Okay. So far,
Yeah.
It's all lining up.
It's a husband and wife. They even say so on the website. It says that the wife wanted to do this thing, and her husband happened to be a chemist, so he worked on it, and then they developed the process themselves. So this to me sounds distinctly like it must be the same
Absolutely.
people.
Yeah. The chances of there being two companies with the same backstory seems improbable.
Vermont Flowers is a Belgian company based in Kenya.
Okay.
So I think Judith has just pretended that they're Swiss so that we can get this transition to the next segment, which is set in Switzerland.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, because if the Belgian, it makes no sense, does it?
No, it doesn't. Well, you don't need to have a clever segue. That's so odd.
Yeah. Or maybe something got mixed up in their notes or something when they were writing the, I don't know, shenanigans.
That's so weird. What a weird choice to make, though. And tell me that this Vermont Flowers, like, are these the photos and the thing here?
Yes.
Is this their products? They're like little bouquets, but like, I mean, to me they could be.
But there is.
I mean, they could be, made of material.
There is like this strong.
Embalmed flowers, and see, they're actually called embalmed flowers.
There is like the strong sort of like whiff of death about them, isn't there?
There is, yeah. They are.
You know, like,
well,
you know how like
they're very muted.
You know, like they say that when somebody dies, their physical appearance doesn't change, but you can tell that they're dead because the life has gone out of them in some way.
Yeah.
And it's like that. They just look I mean, it's not helped by the fact that most of them are sort of like a bruised purple. Like,
They are. They're very muted. Yeah.
Like a corpse would be.
They are kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Because it's a combination of the muted colours, but like they've been dressed in a kind of a really chintzy, tacky way, and that kind of juxtaposition makes me feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh, they're not cheap.
No, but I presume
They're not expensive, but they're not cheap.
But I presume, or just for the listeners at home, they're around 30, between 30,
Oh
30
yeah,
and 38
€38, 56
per posy.
and 31.01, yeah, which is for one flower.
I suppose being based
yeah,
in
and
Kenya cuts down on labour costs, I would have thought.
that is so odd. That is so peculiar.
Yeah.
You'd have thought the Belgians of all people would know not to mess around in Africa.
Got nothing else to say about it, Mark.
No, the whole thing's made me unsettled.
Should we cheer ourselves up?
Yeah.
Switzerland is a chocoholic's idea of heaven. The chocolates on sale in the old quarter of Zurich are some of the most delicious and the most expensive that you'll find anywhere in the world. The Swiss have been making some of the world's finest chocolates since the early 19th century. It all started in Zurich back in 1879, when Swiss aristocrat Rudolf Lindt found a way to remove the bitterness from cocoa beans. His company was soon producing the first ever bars of chocolate. Of course, that discovery has now blossomed into a major Swiss industry. The texture and the quality of the Lindt chocolates, and at the moment they're working on the problem of the chocolate liqueur. Because to the perfectionist Swiss, even the most delicious liqueur chocolates can be improved. They're concentrating on the sugar crust, which prevents the alcohol from leaking out and spoiling the chocolate. At the moment, this crust is made by filling a starch mould with a mixture of sugar and alcohol. Now, this is a very concentrated solution made at a high temperature, and as it cools down, so the sugar crystallizes to form a coating around the alcohol. Here we are, and that allows you to dip it in the chocolate. But the results aren't always perfect. Sometimes the sugar crust is too thick, sometimes too thin, or just plain lumpy. This sort of lumpy crust, say the Swiss, ruins the taste of the liqueur. So they turned to the science of crystallography and discovered that if the concentrated solution of sugar and alcohol is first seeded with tiny sugar particles, all of the sugar crystallizes out in a very controlled way. But how could they apply this technique to make a thin, even sugar crust inside their chocolate liqueurs? They found a very clever solution. After all, chocolate is made with sugar. So if you use perfectly normal chocolate around the outside, but on the inside, you make the chocolate in such a way that the natural particles of sugar rise to the surface. This gives the sugar in the alcohol something to cling on to. The crystals in the alcohol are drawn towards the sugar around the chocolate, and it forms a very uniform crust around the alcohol. Well, that's the theory. Now to put it into practice. The chocolate is processed in a secret way so that some of its microscopic sugar particles rise to the surface. Up here, the supersaturated sugar and alcohol are gently mixed and then cooled so that the sugar doesn't come out of solution. Then the mixture is pumped across to the other side of the factory where it's added to the inner mould. All the sugar in solution now rapidly crystallizes out around the seed particles, forming a perfectly thin, even crust to seal in the alcohol. All that's needed now is a chocolate lid. And here they are, perfect chocolate liqueurs, guaranteed to keep any chocolate lover sweet.
I don't know about you, Mark, but nothing makes me think of traditional Swiss chocolate making more than Eddie Murphy sneaking around Los Angeles warehouses and sticking bananas up the exhaust pipes of cars.
Well, indeed.
Well, yeah, one of the truly most incongruous
Oh, what a pleasant
music
surprise.
choices
Yeah.
we've had. But
Absolutely.
always a pleasure to hear Axel F by Harold Faltermeyer, and
Oi,
absolutely
oi, oi, always.
got to be one of the greatest electronic instrumentals ever. I was just looking actually at the chart performance of it, and I was quite disgusted that the Harold Faltermeyer version reached number 2 in the UK charts, sold 250,000 copies. The Crazy Frog version went to 1 in the UK charts and sold 694,000 copies.
Well, just know that Harold got most of that money, Ross. Just be happy with
Yeah.
that, okay?
Yeah. I mean, if that's not a damning indictment of the collapse of modern civilization, I don't know what is, Mark.
The early millennial era,
Yes. I think this section obviously people eat chocolates at Christmas. There's a classic combination.
Yeah.
Maggie gets to go on holiday. We get sort of subtle advertising for the Lindt Chocolate Company. Another segment that goes on for slightly too long.
Slightly too long.
Mainly because it's another one that boils down. Does a lot of explaining and setup, and all they've really done is just change the recipe of their chocolates.
It's actually not that interesting.
No.
I mean, everyone loves kind of seeing the processes in a factory.
Yep.
Especially a chocolate factory. Everyone loves seeing those scenes of like a tray of things passing under this kind of waterfall of gloopy chocolate. We all enjoy that. And I have no problem with them trying to crowbar it in.
I was just saying, was that a deliberate pun on gloopy waterfall? Is it Augustus Gloop? Charlie and Chocolate
No,
Factory?
it wasn't. No, not at all. No, I actually was trying to avoid saying glue because I already used it, but I couldn't think of another word.
Wonk on the brain.
I do have wonk on the brain, yeah. And this, but this is just. It's not very. I'm not a chocolate person. My wife likes chocolate, and by that I mean like she loves like proper chocolate, high quality chocolate, chocolate that absorbs light. It's so dark, like chocolate that has no sweetness or sugar or anything in it. Like sucks taste off your tongue.
You may as well be
That's the
just
kind of
eating
chocolate.
charcoal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that kind of chocolate. And if she's gonna get chocolate, she's gonna spend good money on it, and she's gonna eat a little bit of it every now and then because she's gonna, because you can't eat a whole bar of this damn stuff because it's not nice. And so I'm not really a chocolate person. I, on the other hand, have a bag of curly whirly squirlies in the fridge, Russ. So you can see where I am in the spectrum. I'm not terribly enamoured by fancy pants chocolates.
No.
And actually, I have to say, I don't think I've had a chocolate liqueur since I was a child, and I didn't enjoy it as a child.
No.
I suspect I probably might enjoy it more now as an adult. But nonetheless, the technology, or how they've slightly improved the technology in the chocolate liqueur, is such a niche thing that I actually have no particular interest. So there are bits about this. I love the Axel F. God bless, I love the Axel F. I love the fact that when she's talking about the process, we cut to what looks like film footage from the 1960s of a generic man in a generic laboratory looking at generic crystallization. So there was little bits I liked, but in general, this kind of left me slightly cold.
Yes, yeah.
Because I think we're supposed to enjoy it. I think we're supposed to go, oh yeah, chocolate.
Yeah.
Actually, it's. Yeah. Of course. And the other thing I liked was right at the end when she's in the factory and she's holding up a kind of a pile of these trays of chocolates that have just come fresh off the conveyor belt, and a guy walks into shot with his own tray, obviously works there, and just sort of stops like he didn't know there was filming, and he just kind of looks around and then just walks off.
Yeah, that was so weird. As if he could possibly have seen the film crew and the woman in the bright white and red spotty dress.
Yeah.
Standing in his way, but
she's not camouflaged.
He acts like he hadn't seen her. It's really odd.
Yeah.
Well, my issue. I do like I like a Lindt chocolate. I love a Lindt bunny at Easter. Delicious.
That's cool. Yeah.
But liqueurs have always left me absolutely cold. And you think, I enjoy an alcoholic drink, Mark. But the combination of chocolate and strong alcohol, absolutely, it's a match made in hell, Mark. It really is. It's not nice at all. Especially, it's quite often. I don't know what the Lindt ones are like, but I've certainly, in desperation, like gnawed on a cheap packet of liqueurs that I've found in a cupboard somewhere. and you'll bite into it, and the booze will just pour out like you've just like bitten the bottom off of a shot glass. Like it's absolutely insane. And then you've just got a mixture of really sweet chocolate or dark chocolate with like just neat whiskey or neat rum or something like that. I just do not understand. It strikes me as something that was invented probably when old Lindt first came up with the idea of chocolate. He probably, back then the only things they could put in it was either strong alcohol, tobacco, or heroin. So
Anything to take away the taste.
So that's what they went with. But in this day and age, Mark, when we have things like caramel and fondant and whatever, I think it's an unnecessary thing to be getting on with, personally.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because like there was a part of me watching the thing and like, oh, maybe I've misremembered the chocolate cure. Maybe now as an adult I'd like it, but based on your review, I think I'll stick to my prejudices. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And I don't know how many of them you have to get through to get drunk. I guess I'm sure somebody's.
Ooh.
I wonder if anybody's on a YouTube video of that.
Which do you think hits first, drunkenness or diabetes?
But I think doesn't having diabetes make you more susceptible to alcohol? So that might help.
Oh, win-win.
Yeah.
Diabetes.
Yeah. So I mean, Rudolf Lindt of Lindt fame.
Ooh, how very festive indeed. Yeah.
He invented.
Oops. Yep.
What's known as the conching machine. The conching machine is the absolute key.
Yep.
To modern chocolate making, to the boom in chocolate making. Before conching, chocolate was very grainy, almost gritty in its sort of when they put it together, and so that's why people preferred having drinking chocolate, because they could strain the grains out or melt the grains or whatever. So his conching machine, what we would do is you'd pour all the chocolate and cocoa butter in there, and then just leave it running for hours. And it's these giant heavy rollers, and they sort of stir and crush it and like agitate it and warm it up a bit, and that makes that smooths it all out, makes it all nice and like it's silky, like you see it in Augustus Gloop's waterfall. And then also the warmth gets rid of all of like the bitter elements of it and the sort of the horrible tasting elements, like the sort of acidic qualities that are in the natural cocoa. So once he discovered this, it suddenly made chocolate and making chocolate bars like much tastier and much easier to do. So then it caused the boom in chocolate bars, and they took over from drinking chocolate as the most popular type of chocolate. But if you're making a high quality bar of chocolate, you're going to leave that conching machine running for 78 hours, Mark.
Wow.
Get it really, really beaten up. If you're going to make a cheap old bar, 6 hours will probably do it. I imagine that's what Hershey's do.
Ugh, if
that.
If 6,
yeah. But so Lindt, obviously very successful, and then he sold his factory and the secret of conching to another company called Sprugli, who immediately changed the name of their company to Lindt and Sprugli to get his name on there. And they paid him 1.5 million gold francs in 1899 for that. That must have been worth it. That sounds like a lot, doesn't it?
Wow. Yeah, that sounds like a lot.
Because I know a Swiss franc is roughly the same as it's not too far away from a British pound now.
Yeah, correct.
So I don't know what 1.5 million would have been back then.
But 1.5 million gold francs.
Yes.
You have to assume that's like a bonus.
Yeah,
franc,
it's got to be,
right?
isn't it? Yeah.
Not a normal franc, it's a gold franc.
Unless it was chocolate money, which it's actually.
Okay, yeah, I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah. But yeah, they've got 12. Lindt and Sprugli have got 12 factories around the world now, and their main factory is in Kilchberg, and it contains the world's largest chocolate fountain, Mark. 9 meters tall, with 1,500 liters of chocolate churning around it. So that's full on Wonka, isn't it?
That is proper Wonka, yeah.
Yeah. And you can still buy liqueurs. I found a variety pack shaped like bottles, and you've got.
They're shaped like sarcophagi.
Yeah, they are, aren't they? Yeah. They've put a lot of effort into those, have they? I don't know. I didn't find out whether they're made using the new method or not. I assume they are, unless they've been sitting around in this person's drawer for a long time. I did find them on eBay. And what you've got there, the flavours there are cognac, Kirsch, so the cherry one. You could probably just about stomach the Kirsch one because it's.
That was the one I was looking at and thinking like, okay, I get that. Yeah.
Williams pear brandy.
Oh, is that what that is?
Okay. The yellow one is eggnog.
Oh, I can't stand eggnog. Go on.
The other one is called Marc de Champagne. right? And I obviously assumed that was just a type of champagne, but it's not. Turns out that Marc de Champagne isn't champagne at all. Marc de Champagne is some sort of spirit, and it's a 60% alcohol by volume clear spirit that's made from grapes. So,
okay.
So that's going to blow your head off when you bite into that one. The only ones I would consider having is you can get Lindors, which are filled with Irish cream, aka Baileys. I think Baileys would go all right with the chopped. I would have thought probably just about get away with it.
That's a gateway drink, though, isn't it? That's like a kind of a kid-friendly drink, so that makes sense.
Yeah, I always remember the aforementioned Wogan used to get through a bottle of it while commentating on Eurovision, didn't he? That was his tradition.
Yep.
Which is why he got increasingly bilious towards the end of the. But yeah, I mean.
Do you know, there's many times I miss Wogan or think about him. Eurovision is not one of them.
Oh, really?
I think, and I'll tell you why. It's because I like the new approach to Eurovision, which is like, this is fun. It's fun. No one takes it seriously. Wogan like to pretend that Europe took it. They didn't. They just took it. They reveled in the silliness of it, whereas we took the piss out of it. And it's like, I like the fact that it's now kind of a celebration of camp and ridiculous and stupidity, and you can mock it and you can joke, but you can do it safely in the context of just enjoying Eurovision. And I think there's been a lovely and it hasn't had as high viewing figures as it has done the last kind of 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
The fact that the semi-finals, both semi-finals, are on BBC One this coming year, it's like that says everything. Everyone likes it now.
Yeah.
And I think because the thing is, probably because I think at the end, not just of his working day, but at the end of his time, I think Wogan started off quite mean at times and got meaner.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, fuck you, Wogan.
Merry Christmas.
And now for something I can't keep quiet about. You see, I'm one of the latest in high-tech toys to be launched next year. Damn, I can present tomorrow's world on my own.
Not so fast. You only do exactly what I tell you to do. Mind you, perfect for ventriloquists, especially those that have a problem saying "got the gear." All you have to do is play a recorded message on the tape recorder in the back. Now then, Ted here is actually designed to tell stories from a voice on a track of a stereo cassette, and you can get him to say anything you like.
But my lips are sealed when anyone on the other track tries to put words into my mouth.
That's because it relies on a sound detector to trigger a motor behind the mouth and the eyes.
And it only picks up the sound pulses from the track with the narrator's voice on it, and that's what triggers the motor.
Lovely, isn't he? But next year is going to be the year of the robot toy, though none of these, unfortunately, are available this Christmas, I'm afraid. Now, with this one here, you can actually, in the future, plug it into your home computer and then write quite complicated programs for it to follow. But at the moment, it's got this infrared remote control. You can tell it to do quite a lot of complicated things, and it will play Christmas tunes.
And the ultimate in cuddly and clever toys has got to be this robot cat. It not only purrs when it feels like it, it also speaks to you and dances to music depending on your clapping instructions. And unfortunately, it's been made to be just as temperamental as the real thing. Let's see what it can make it do. Oh, it's off anyway.
We're going to be back in the new year. So until then, Merry Christmas. Do a twirl, Howard, do a twirl. Merry Christmas to you all.
That's an exciting segment for the kids there, Mark. All of the wonderful toys that they won't be getting for Christmas.
Look at what you could have won. Yeah.
Although I think I'd be quite pleased because the ones they demonstrate all seem like they're a bit crap, don't they?
A smidge. Yeah. I do remember that cat though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I couldn't. Do you remember what it was called? I couldn't find anything about that.
No, but I definitely recognised it.
Stupid big.
And not from having watched this episode before.
A stupid big smug flat face. It's a bit like it's a bit like a decolorised bagpuss, really, wasn't it? A bit.
Is it? Well, yeah. And actually, I suppose do you know what it also reminded me of? Was like obviously they had the Garfield phone earlier. This is more like a Heathcliff, wasn't it? Than
yeah.
The knockoff Garfield.
Yeah. And I think probably Howard's had trouble with it in rehearsals because he just gives up on even trying to demonstrate it, doesn't he? He goes,
Yeah.
He's got a mind of its own. Look, just
He's
it
a Guinness
does
from the
things.
off.
Yeah. But it adds a nice sense of chaos to the end. It's like one of those occasional chaotic endings we have where they think, it's Christmas, who cares? They've got the games out. It's just mess about,
Yeah, last day of school feeling.
Yeah.
Bring your games in. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And Judas is demonstrating some robots which they've inexplicably stuck massive sprigs of holly into.
Which I don't understand.
It's not even.
But anyway.
It's not even robot holly, Mark. It's just regular holly.
No, it's regular people, Holly. Yeah.
There's a few. I think they were Zoids on around the front there. But
I think they were. When I saw them, I said Zoids in my head.
but they're not even demonstrated.
No.
But the actual sort of the star of this piece, if you want to call it that, is a clearly knockoff Teddy Ruxpin.
Yeah, it's a fake Teddy Ruxpin. That's it. That's what it is.
Now, obviously, I was wondering why would they have a knockoff one until I obviously then discovered the price of Teddy Ruxpins. So
shocking.
So the BBC are too cheap to buy an official Teddy Ruxpin because it's the same. It runs on the same system. But the thing is, if you play the old Teddy Ruxpin advert from back in the day, he has that very generic "I'm a friendly American bear" sort of "oh, come play with me" type voice. This fella has a quite obnoxious sort of. What is it? Is it Bronx? Is it what is it? He's trying to do.
No, but that's Howard, though, Russell.
Oh, is it?
That's Howard. That is. You were right in your notes thinking that it was. No, that's Howard doing that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realise that.
Yeah, that's how. Yeah, I don't think the real fake Teddy Ruxpin talked about being a presenter in Tomorrow's World. No, that is Howard doing an American voice.
Oh, right.
Probably
okay.
Colorado.
Oh, no, that explains it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely not a Teddy Ruxpin because his mouth is the wrong shape. If you look at you compare to a real Teddy Ruxpin. So I don't know where they've got it from because I obviously went trying to find this one, and I even found I actually found an online article that said faked something. What was it? It was like fake Teddy Ruxpins ranked.
He said like our kind of people.
And it went through them, and it wasn't in any of those. I mean, there was plenty because its invention did cause something of a craze because it was the top-selling toy of both 1985 and 1986.
2 years running, gosh.
And they sold a lot of them,
expensive.
and they were so expensive.
Bloody hell.
I don't know whether maybe it was like a particularly big thing in America compared to Britain. I suspect that's
Oh, has to have been. I think it would have annoyed too many people over here. It was so cloying in America.
Yeah. It was actually invented by. There was a bloke who worked. So there's a Disney series called Welcome to Pooh Corner, and it had little animatronic Winnie the Pooh characters in it.
Oh, how
And this
lovely.
bloke Ken Force, who built them, he thought, hang on a minute, I can make a little animatronic character toy for kids. So then they came up with the idea of Teddy Ruxpin. And obviously it also came up with the idea of having an associated cartoon to sell it. Because that was it was in the 80s that you had to have an associated cartoon to sell your toys. Do they do that anymore? Are they even allowed to do that these days?
They are, because PJ Masks and Paw Patrol, neither which you may know, Russell, but because I have nieces and nephews, I'm and obviously we have friends that have kids. They are huge. They have been huge now for about 10 years, I'd say. And the thing about Paw Patrol that I find deeply cynical is that they have maybe 2 series of a Paw Patroller are in a tower in the town, and then they'll have 2 series of Paw Patrol are now based on an a dirigible, and Paw Patrol are now based on a submarine.
On an oil rig.
Or an oil rig, of course, an oil rig.
I'd buy that one.
And of course, then there will be the toy line that goes with it. So, 100%. The animation's better though.
Yeah. But yeah. So obviously you had the cartoon. So the way it's worked, I don't know whether Howard sort of doesn't necessarily explain it that closely. Weirdly, he slightly under-explains what's going on here compared to some of the other segments. But basically, all it is the cassette. Your normal audio cassette tape has two side-by-side tracks on it, and each track feeds to each of the speakers for stereo. All the Teddy Ruxpin's doing is only one of those tracks has got the audio recording on it, so it's a mono recording, and then the other track has just got is like a computer tape with data instructions, which drives the servos. So that's why if you put in a gangster rap tape or something, because it's got just two audio tracks and no data track, then his mouth doesn't move. So I think that's probably just to prevent him from people recording him swearing and things like that.
Spitting fire, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but obviously there's countless instructables on the internet on how to get your Teddy Ruxpin to sing gangster rap or heavy metal.
Too.
I saw somebody made an entire coven of Teddy Ruxpins, all like satanic incantations or something. But yeah, but there's this sort of whole world of Teddy Ruxpin. It turns out that he's not actually a bear; he's an Iliot, which is his own thing, and he had a best friend called Grubby, which I put a photograph of at the bottom there.
I recognise it. Yeah,
it's absolutely horrific looking.
Yeah, horrible thing.
But he was the same size as Teddy.
Not least because he seems to have his twin coming out of his backside.
Yeah, it's like real human centipede type stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
But he was the same size as Teddy, but yet if you connected with a cable to each other, they'd be able to chat away to each other. So that was the fun
lovely.
there. And he was also dubbed the official spokesbear for the National Centre for Missing and Exploited Children in 1985.
I thought he wasn't a bear.
This is the thing. I think somebody needs to speak to the National Centre for Missing and Exploited Children because they got that wrong. He's actually the official spokes Iliot.
Iliot, yeah.
No,
having said that...
Iliop. Sorry, Iliop.
Iliop?
Pop with P. Iliop.
Oh, Iliop. Oh, gosh. How odd.
But two more interesting Ruxpin facts. Number one, there was a type of animal that lived in his universe called a grunge. There was these animals called grunges, and so that does mean that there is a Teddy Ruxpin tape released in 1985 that is simply titled Grunge Music, which predates old Nirvana by quite some time. So in your face, Kurt Cobain.
Kurt.
And secondly, they put down possibly a lot of Nintendo's success in America to Teddy Ruxpin because the company that Nintendo chose to distribute Nintendo's in America, they saw how successful Ruxpin had been, and they said, we want you to sell our NESs in American shops. Because all the American toy stores had sworn off of computer games when there was that big crash in 1983. So the guys who worked for this distributor they were called World of Wonder. They basically just went in the toy stores and they went
World of Wonder.
Worlds of Wonder. Yeah.
Worlds of Wonder, because World of Wonder was that TV production company that used to always do those mad Adam and Joe and all the stuff with Laura Keitlinger, where she would just show you clips of the stupidest public access American shows.
Yes. No, this was Worlds of Wonder. Their salesman would just march into toy stores and go, "You're not getting any Ruxpins on your shelves unless you stock NESs next to them."
Yeah.
And so the toy stores had to say yes, and in the end, Nintendo started selling loads of NESs in the shops. So it's all down to
riding those Ruxpin coattails. Yeah. Wow, I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, there was. Enjoyable end to the show. Not a damp squib at all, I don't think, because it was just too much. They're having too much fun for it to be a damp squib, weren't they?
Too much fun.
Yeah. And that's
cool. That was it.
That's all of our fun.
Yeah. Oh. All right then, shall we? Right. Let me just put another fucking log on the fire. Tell you what, Rush, shall we start crunching those numbers?
Let's do it.
So, cinema box office. Shoot.
It's a good one.
Oh, good.
Number 10, Red Sonja. Number 9, Turtle Diary. Number 8, Number 8, Plenty.
Okay.
Number 7, My Beautiful Laundrette.
Okay.
Number 6, Enemy Mine. Number 5.
Oh, yeah.
The Goonies. No, actually, going back, do you know Enemy Mine? Do you know that they... Because it's based on the phrase enemy mine, which I think is possibly from Shakespeare or something like that. But the producers told them they had to put a mine in it because otherwise it'd be confusing.
No, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. No, that's amazing.
Number 5,
Hollywood.
The Goonies. Number 4, Legends. Number 3, Silverado. Number 2, your favourite, Santa Claus the Movie. And number 1, Back to the Future.
Oh, wow, cool.
Back in time.
Yeah, I don't know what the first film I saw in the cinema is, but my earliest cinema might have been back when Disney used to re-release things. It might have been Bambi. I also vaguely remember seeing E.T. But it's the first time I remember going to the cinema for a big release with Santa Claus the Movie. So I still have a soft spot for that, even if it is on reflection a little bit dry and a little bit slow. Well done, Back to the Future though. Pop charts. Barreling towards the Christmas number 1. Who could it be?
I think this extraordinary.
Actually, it would have been announced on Sunday, wouldn't it? Yeah, go on.
I did actually. I just brought up I thought it's the Christmas episode, so I'll just bring up the Christmas chart.
Oh yeah, might as well. Yeah.
It's quite extraordinary actually. So number 10, See the Day by D.C. Lee. Number 9, Dress You Up by Madonna. Number 8, I'm Your Man by Wham. Number 7, Separate Lives by Phil Collins and Marilyn Martin. Number 6, Last Christmas / Everything She Wants by Wham. Number 5, Walking in the Air. Number 4, West End Girls, Pet Shop Boys. Number 3, Do They Know It's Christmas, Band Aid. Number 2, Saving All My Love for You, Whitney Houston. And number 1, Merry Christmas Everyone by Shakin' Stevens.
Shakin' bloody Stevens.
You got
Wow,
5 Christmas heavy
Yeah.
hitters in there.
Yeah, huge.
Last Christmas, Walking in the Air. It's actually 4, sorry. Last Christmas, Walking in the Air, Do Know It's Christmas, and Merry Christmas, Everyone. Amazing. And that was, of course, Merry Christmas, Everyone was the first Christmas song I heard this year. I heard it at the very beginning of November in a Dutch charity shop, which was the last place I was expecting to hear a bit of the old shaky.
Bit of the old shaky.
Yes, yeah.
Prices, Russ, prices. We've had a lot of prices in this episode.
We have, haven't we?
So let's have more.
Shall I convert all of these into ruck spins?
Oh, please. Yes, yes, you should do.
Gallon of petrol, 10th of a ruck spin. Bottle of whiskey, 3rd of a ruck spin. I'm doing this maths very quickly, Mark, so it's quite rough.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah.
Pint of beer, 1/25th of a ruck spin. 20 fags, 1/20th of a ruck spin. Sinclair Spectrum computer, 2 ruck spins.
Ooh.
Average house price, 5,000 ruck spins.
Wow.
Ford Sierra, 100 ruck spins. Is that right? Yes. And
550 quid. Oh
No.
no, 100. 5,500.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And
spins.
£1 of English cheddar cheese, 1/55th of a ruck spin.
Well done. Gosh. Argos catalogue?
We've got Mark, it was a Christmas miracle in that there were 3 kettles this month. All that were the top price, and each of them was a Russell Hobbs. I'll only read out one of them, like the 3 kings coming into view.
I was about to say 3 wise men. Yeah.
So I've decided to choose this cheeky little number. It's the Russell Hobbs Highline Microchip automatic jug kettle, manufactured from Chemetal. Some sort of special kettle metal? Don't know, Chemetal. Touch button on/off controls with neon light indicator. Switches off when boiled. Boils as little as 1 cup of water. 2,200 watts. Capacity 2 2/3 pints. Surely any kettle boils as little as 1. Surely any kettle boils as little as any amount of water you put in.
I was about to say they boil less
You
than
just
that.
put water in it, and whatever you put in it, it will heat it to it. Would it? Or do they have some sort of safety thing?
Maybe they did. Oh, I don't know. Good question. One day we'll find out, Russ. Magazine covers.
I couldn't find New Scientist this time for some reason. It wouldn't let me find it.
Christmas break?
Maybe. Scientific American is simply kaleidoscopes. They're so consistently sort of obtuse. I wonder whether it's like a
Deliberate?
Yeah, you could probably Popular science: the new satellite antennas. That should be antennae, shouldn't it?
Antennae, yeah.
Clever designs are smaller, cheaper, better, easier to install. Also, the cordless tool revolution. Time: Skywatch. Halley's Comet swings by. Now, I feel like it used to be everyone pronounced it Halley's Comet, and then everyone started to pronounce it Halley's Comet.
Is that because of Halley Bop?
Or is it because of Bill Haley and his comets? Singer of Rock Around the Clock.
I see. Did people used to call it Halley's Comet, but then Bill Haley came along, confused the whole system?
Yeah, and it's only once 50s music has sort of fallen by the wayside, everybody's gone back to pronouncing it Halley again.
50, yeah.
Something to look into.
It's a good
Only
theory.
there's somebody on this podcast that did research.
Yeah.
14 times, Phantom Attackers, plus Weird Tales from Finland, Ireland and Russia.
All right.
Private Eye, it's another speech bubble frenzy. It's the Queen, and she's standing in front of all of the surviving Prime Ministers, plus, obviously, plus Dennis Thatcher as well, because she's there with Margaret.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got one of the older ones, Anthony Eden, maybe? Or Harold Macmillan? I'm going to say Harold Macmillan. Saying, I don't remember you being Prime Minister. He's looking at Dennis Thatcher. Then the Queen saying, a happy Christmas to all Private Eye readers. Then there's another one saying, where am I? And then James Callaghan is saying, I think it's Madame Tussauds. Then Margaret Thatcher's just saying, my husband and I, for some reason. And
because that's what the Queen says.
Oh. And then Harold Wilson saying, I am the spirit of Christmas past it.
Okay.
And Viz has got a big fat festive issue. It's got a quote saying, the ideal Christmas gift, Santa Claus. And win, 6 pairs of nylon underpants, plus a fantastic plastic cutlery drainer. They've got to think about plastic cutlery, haven't they? And the shocking truth about TV's Keith Chegwin, and they've spelt Keith wrong on the cover.
Oh, okay.
And Playboy, it's a gala Christmas issue. Barbie Benton is back, looking better than ever. Playboy interviewed Genial Genius Bill Cosby. Sorry, I hadn't read that before. Special report why drug enforcement can't work. Our guide
says Bill Cosby.
Our guide to the best dating bars in America. Also interviewed David Letterman, Brooke Shields, Huey Lewis.
Okay, cool. Great interviews. It's time to audit, Russ. So let's ask ourselves these important questions. The most important invention we saw this episode. It's something of an invention light episode, to be honest.
Yeah. Most important.
The drill bit sharpener?
Video fireplace. Actually, I forgot to tell you, didn't I, that I found...
Oh, yeah, the picture.
I did find the... because...
oh, you found the tape?
In case it wasn't clear at the time, at the end of Judith's thing about video copying, we've got Peter McCann sitting in front of a lovely...
Oh, yeah, we didn't mention it.
Cosy fire in a wing-backed armchair, and he's watching a VHS of a fireplace. Something which is, quite easy to fire up on YouTube these days. I always remember it as being a thing that one of the German satellite channels always used to put on when they didn't have any programming on overnight. They just put a fireplace on instead. But I did find the first ever video fireplace, which was from 1982.
Oh.
Yeah, it was 60 minutes long. But this was a thing, right? It was an interview with the bloke who came up with it, right? And he said, how did the idea come to me? I was in New York City at a party in a small one-room apartment on West 23rd Street. No real fireplace, but the first VCR I'd ever seen in someone's home. Jokingly, I said to the host, if you had a tape of a fire, we could be having drinks around a fireplace. He said he did. He'd recorded the Christmas Yule log fireplace from Channel 11 in New York City, so he put it on. Instant confirmation that my idea was a good one. Hang on, mate. It wasn't
your idea.
It wasn't your idea. Your mate's already invented this thing because he's already got it.
How did I come up with the idea that somebody else had? Unbelievable.
Yeah.
The cheek of the man.
Absolutely outrageous.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, and then he went on to sell, I don't know, at least 10 of these fireplace videos.
That's the American dream, isn't it? Stealing somebody else's idea and making loads of money.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Best invention, Teddy Ruxpin.
Well, for him, it's that.
No, I suppose it's got to be the drill bit sharpener, isn't it?
Yeah, it does have to be, unfortunately. Most worthless invention.
It's the powdered.
The ladder thing.
I mean, ladder thing, powdered wine cork ribbon.
Powdered wine. Ah, it's that, isn't it? Because it doesn't exist.
Yes.
I know that the ladder thing doesn't exist, but like the wine cork ribbon thing, we still use the same cork, whereas there are other ladder safety things like a car bonnet that you can use. Yeah. Most inaccurate prediction of the future.
Light up lollipop.
Oh yeah.
Light up lollipops don't exist.
Very true. The anti-piracy VHS thing doesn't really work either, does it?
No, I think it worked for a brief period though.
I kind of feel like with all these things, it's more to frighten people than it is to actually tackle piracy.
Yes, yeah.
So it'll work. Oh my God, I've heard like people wouldn't even normal people wouldn't even attempt to do it because so convinced were they that this technology must have existed within in their own VCRs that they would be too frightened lest they automatically ring the police or something. That's so yeah. Worst screw up.
That bloke appearing in shots trying to fix
true.
the phones. I don't think he should be there. Or
I'd like to go on.
Or the fella in the factory who wanders in shot, not realising that Maggie's presenting.
For me, the screw up there is that they should have taken another take, but they didn't.
Yeah.
I would like to put forward Howard's a nice drop of Shepherd's Chateau de Shepherd's Brush.
yeah.
And the fact that Judith Hahn very clearly calls the film Remlins. Which, as far as I'm concerned, that's all I'm ever going to refer to that film. That film now, as far as I'm concerned, is Remlins.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's 4. You got a preference?
No, I'll leave it up to you, Mark. Christmas present.
Oh, bless you. I'm gonna go Remlins. I just love it. What Remlins. Just makes me smile. Best attempt at making something boring interesting.
Well, I mean,
there's a lot of failures in this.
Yeah, I'm loath to use it now because it's going to be the next one as well. But the use of Axel F in the lid factory.
No. I totally agree with you. And actually, as a result, these two, because it's the next one, because it is the best use in music, it has become the best attempt at making something boring interesting.
Yes, yeah.
Because that is entirely incongruous. It is. I was blindsided, Ross. I was not expecting that. I don't think anyone was.
No.
It's now, as far as I can say, it is an iconic use of that music.
Yes. Well, I'll be driving through Switzerland on Friday. I'll make sure to blast Axel F out through.
You should.
As I zoom along, it's the highways and byways.
I tell you what, you keep an eye out because people will stop and salute as you travel by us because that is the official anthem of Switzerland.
Yeah.
Best or worst use of furniture? Well, there is the armchair that you rightly pointed out McCann sits in while he's enjoying his fire.
Yes. Is there any other? I don't think there is any other. Nothing else stood out to me.
And that didn't either until you just mentioned it.
But it is a decent bit of furniture.
I'd love a wing-tipped armchair. We don't really have the space for one, actually. I don't think there is another bit of furniture. Isn't that awful? Well, I mean, I suppose it's kind of irrelevant, really, isn't it? It's neither awful nor not awful. Okay, well, that's the winner then. Most notable clothing?
I mean,
we have options.
Some stiff competition here. We've got obviously you've got McCann's jumper. You've got two different jumpers from Howard. You've got Judith dressing a bit like Rimmer from Series 3 of Red Dwarf with a green sort of jumpsuity number, and then you've got Maggie's lovely spotty polka dot Swiss one.
Yeah,
but I think this is the Christmas episode, Mark.
I
we
agree.
have to go for them. We have to go for the most Christmassy one.
I think you're right.
And it's that jumper with a big picture of Father Christmas on it and the words "Merry Christmas" written across the back.
It's that bit of information at the end that we haven't mentioned is that I thought it was not a great but pretty Christmassy jumper, and then when he turns around and there's sparkly "Merry Christmas" written in the back.
And Judith even says, "Give us a twirl," doesn't she?
Give us a twirl. Give us a twirl. Yeah. She's quite bullying, actually. Did we see anything in the episode that made it through to the future? Christmas has made it through to the future.
Those
I'm sure I said that
spinny
last year.
light things are everywhere.
Yep, they are everywhere.
Video fireplace you can still get.
In one form or another.
Spruces.
Yep.
Those embalmed flowers, shockingly.
I'm genuinely gobsmacked.
Lints. You can still get. There's a modern
Lints,
version. There's
okay.
a modern version of Teddy Ruxpin, which I didn't mention.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm also gobsmacked that powdered wine made
Yeah,
it.
powdered wine did. Drill bit sharp that did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite a lot, actually. Quite a lot.
Yeah.
And what does this episode tell us about the 19th of December, 1985?
Well, everybody's simply having a wonderful Christmas time, aren't they?
Aren't they just?
Yeah.
Aren't they just? Yeah. Everyone's embraced Christmas, and I quite like that. Because in previous years, we've seen where it's kind of... they almost feel like it's a bit childish to kind of admit that it's Christmas.
Yeah,
But here, everyone's leaning straight in.
got-
Not just that, they're already looking forward to next year's Christmas.
Exactly,
Because
yes.
it's going to be the year of the robot.
Yeah. And there's plenty of booze for the adults and plenty of toys for the kids and chocolates for the mums and flowers.
Yeah.
So all bases covered. You've got a full gamut of Christmas there.
That is one happy family.
Yes.
Fabulous. So let's look at our tropes then. Presenter having to speak over louder sounds. I think it's a fantastic yes. It's a delight. It's been a while since we've been able to take this, but right at the end, they unleash all the robot sounds to
And
make
so-
sure that they can be barely heard.
Judith being drowned out by a robot is an absolute classic of the. I think it's the first trope one of the first tropes we identified.
It was.
Isn't it?
I believe this is where we came up with this trope. Yeah. Sadly, Maggie Philbin's sleeves did match her body. There was nothing to do with oil rigs.
No.
Plenty of suspiciously obvious brand name on the ad-free BBC. Lint, principally,
Yes.
but also, I would argue, Rambo,
Yeah.
Remlins, Santa Claus.
The movie.
So I feel happy doing that. Clear and blatant lying. Now,
Well.
the Belgian-Swiss-Kenyan imbroglio. Lying? Mistake? You could be right, Russ.
Yeah.
Which way are you leaning?
Lies.
Lies! No evil farmers. It's been a while. I don't.
Evil
recall-
lumberjacks though this week.
But they seem so friendly, except to the trees. Whereas some of the farmers we've seen are callous.
Yes. Yeah.
They didn't seem callous. Casual sexism? I don't recall anything. Except that
No.
girls love chocolate and
Oh,
flowers.
yeah.
I don't think I can quite tick that. There were no lab spaces filled with darkness coloured lights. No Dutch angles.
No. The only Dutch angle is that Bob Symes between being in the Navy and joining the BBC, he was the press officer for KLM Dutch Airlines.
Cool, I'm half tempted to tick that. The problem is, if I do tick it, Russ, I'll never remember why. Item presented on the gantry, sadly not.
No.
There was definitely dad jokes from Howard.
Howard was absolute top form to this week.
Yeah. The episode does not end in a damn squib.
No.
Woolard or McCann abroad or common in a small European town? Nope.
No.
There were no lasers.
No.
There were no magnets.
No.
There were no boats.
No. Switzerland's landlocked, isn't it? No.
Yep.
No.
Baxter didn't bugger off.
No.
And we aren't sure whether they travelled to Shepherd's Bush or not.
No.
Gosh, that's it then. That's a pretty light, tropey episode. I suppose the special ones are always lean towards being a bit more original.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's it, Russ. That's the audit, which means the last thing I have to say to you is that there are 1,409 episodes of Tomorrow's World. Russell, we have covered 36, which means there are but as few as 1,373 episodes left.
And our final episode of 2023, Mark. Another year down.
I know. Did we end in a damn script? God damn it, we didn't.
Yes, so who knows what 2024 will bring? Loads more.
Well, we don't, because we don't know what we're doing
No,
next.
loads more absolute nonsense, I would
Yeah.
have thought, probably. But thank you for everyone for listening to us this year.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Especially those of you.
It's always gratifying to know there are some people who want to hear us.
Yeah, and feel free to send us a Christmas card if you want. You know,
The bigger the diameter drum of the card, the better.
just write Russ and Mark Dutch Alps, and it will get here. I think.
Oh, it'll easily get to
Yeah,
us.
yeah,
Yeah.
'cause we're at the-
Which always remind don't forget our socials.
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely.
At TW all the time on Instagram and Twitter and other things that I can't remember off the top of my head.
We've got a
Threads.
Facebook page as well.
Oh, we do? Facebook, yeah. We have an email address.
All those things.
But importantly, Ross and Mark at DutchAlps.com.
We're at the very top of the mountain, so the postman always finds us.
Yeah. He can see us from everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, Mark, I'm gonna have to leave you now because I just went to put a really big log on the fire.
Oh yeah, bloody hell!
But accidentally threw it through the TV screen. It's bloody McCann put his video on there, didn't he? And I've got mixed up, completely smashed the thing to pieces. So I'm gonna have to run down Dutch Dixon's now to get another TV before the Queen's speech comes on. Otherwise, you know, I might
Of
miss
course.
it. Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
does the Dutch Queen do a speech?
Well, I can always get a
Who cares?
VPN. Oh no,
Yeah.
I just realised Britain doesn't have a queen anymore, does it? King's Speech.
No. Yeah.
How quickly we forget.
What how quickly we forget that you've forgotten that she died.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just think of sausages. Anyway, so,
King Prince Charles.
So it's happy Christmas and happy New Year to all of you out there, and don't eat too much, and we will see you in the new year. Bye bye.
That is the future.